Ooga fucking Ooga cunts. Welcome to the Snatchcast. Jussie Smollett fucking lied, and he got caught in a lie, and it was a big lie, and it was a dumb lie. Anything to add, Brockus, or can we just wrap the show up there?
I'm gonna go ahead and actually just add one thing that clearly this Jussie Smollett or Jussie Smollett shit is a
Dumb
really
name,
bad.
by the way.
It is, but it's a really bad case of fake news.
Yeah, it is. So, Brockus, is there any chance you could sum up the story? You seem to know a little more about it than I do.
Sure. Let me go ahead and shoot the shit on this one. Basically, a few weeks back, Jussie Smollett was attacked at 2 a.m. in Chicago, downtown Chicago, something like that. It was basically 2 a.m. in Chicago. He decided he wanted to get a midnight snack, even a late night snack, which was at Subway. And after getting his sandwich and getting out of the store, two men randomly came up, jumped him, beat him up, poured bleach on him, threw a noose around his neck, and started screaming all kinds of horrible fucking things about him. Like, I guess they called him a faggot. They called him the N-word. And they kept repeating things like, this is MAGA country, this is MAGA country. So, naturally, a bunch of people said, this is Trump supporters. Jussie Smollett actually made a lot of headlines. He was talked about quite often in the news. But shortly after all of this, people started asking questions. Why did Jussie not want to give up his phone? Because, the police would need it for their investigation. Because he claimed he was on the phone with his agent just before the official jumping had happened. Maybe it was his manager, agent, whatever. He was on the phone with somebody.
So, is there a difference? Manager, agent?
I don't think there really is much of a difference.
I think they're the same fucking thing.
It's pretty much the same fucking thing. Anyways, he was on the phone with somebody, and the officers needed his phone to basically back up what he was actually saying. He said no.
Then so he refused to give them the phone.
He kind of refused to cooperate with the police, yes. And then it continued on from there, where it started to look a little fishy that he was still wearing the fucking noose when the police arrived at his home.
Now, Brockus, you ever been beat up?
I have. Well,
and if one of those guys had, I don't know, wrapped a fucking noose around your neck, afterwards, how long would you still be wearing the noose?
I'd be trying to take it off mid-fight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of you have ever worn a noose. They don't look comfortable, for one.
Yeah.
I guess there's also like some racial connotations for black people, but yeah, I would not want to be wearing a noose.
Neither would I. I don't think anybody
I'm
really
quite
would.
white. Like, the way, like, I could see maybe some twisted logic, like I don't want to tamper with the fucking evidence, right? But the noose isn't the important part of the fucking evidence at that point. Yeah. Anybody who had actually been in that situation would get that fucking thing off immediately.
Pretty much. Even if you're not thinking straight, chances are you're going to try to remove whatever possible threat to your life is lingering on you. Like, I don't know, if somebody tries to come at you with a knife, chances are you're not going to want that knife still somewhere on your person unless it's like, I don't know, folded or sheathed or put into your pocket in some way, shape, or form. Hell, with the current situation as things are in Chicago, as a lot of people claim it is, I don't think this guy would even want to have a weapon around him when the police arrive. Because that just doesn't look right. Like, sir, why do you have that knife? I don't fucking know. Fucking this guy came up to me and it's like, well, why are you holding it in a threatening way towards me? I'm not. It's on the floor. Why are you looking at me like that, officer? Bang, bang. Oh, no, BLM.
It doesn't apply so much to the noose, but, I just don't get the idea of leaving that on.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, unless, like I said, he was trying to not tamper with evidence, in which case he's just kind of dumb. He's He just doesn't have a working knowledge of how shit works.
Yeah, it doesn't. By the way, for anyone who might have heard that or decided to clip it and take it out of context or throw some fucking bullshit my way, just let me point out these are jokes, for fuck's sake, jokes. I can't believe I have to actually point this out whenever I make these jokes, but they're jokes. They're not meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah, Baracus, yeah, you're gonna be doxxed in a couple weeks. Your job's gone. Your wife's gonna leave you.
Okay,
your daughter hates you now.
First of all, I don't have a daughter. Second of all, I definitely don't have a wife. Third of all, my job is probably trying to fire me for other reasons. I'm not even gonna lie about that one.
Probably because you stopped showing up.
Seeing as how I hurt myself on the job, that kind of is my reason for not showing up. Also, it's on record and it's been approved.
Yeah, excuses.
Fine, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, no, yeah, the story gets better though. Just letting you guys know, the story gets fucking much better. So aside from the fact that things looked a little bit on the fishy side, and you know what? To give him a little bit of credit, I'll say this much: maybe
he left a pretty man.
He is.
Oh, we were going different directions. Sorry.
We were going different directions. I do agree with your direction, however. So maybe he was like not in the right state of mind to actually remove the noose, but was in the right state of mind enough to actually call the police. And also he waited roughly 20 to 30 minutes to actually call the police to actually make a report. Okay, fine. Jussie actually goes on this somewhat of a tour, I suppose you could say, going on various different shows, being interviewed by this person or that person, talking about the incident. And eventually it came out that there was this picture of these two men walking down the street around the same time that Jussie Smollett had actually been attacked. And when shown the picture, especially in one particular interview, Jussie said, those are definitely the guys that did this to me. Yes, 100%, those are them. It turns out they weren't white guys like Jussie originally said.
No, I've seen pictures of these guys. They are very not white.
Yeah, it's really hard. Okay, as Terrence K. Williams actually pointed out, they're darker than him.
Yeah, I mean, like these guys are black.
Yeah, these are fucking straight out of Africa black. Okay?
If these guys are beating up on Jussie Smollett because of a race thing, it's because they've confused him for a white guy.
I was going to say, if they're beating him up because of a race thing, it's because he's impure in their mind. Like, I don't know, maybe they're going back to the old school. You are not one of us. Get the fuck out of this country. What?
No, the bitching witch says rope fibers pick up epithelial tissue. They'll test the fuck out of the rope, and if they find a match to the guys that were allegedly hired, that dude is royally fucked.
That's the other interesting part. You see, as the information started rolling out, it turns out the two men that were definitely the ones who did it were not white men, like Jussie originally reported, but in fact, very dark black men. And they are also extras from Empire, the show he's on.
The show he's on, and the show that he was about to no longer be on, right?
Yep. His character was making less and less appearances in the show. I don't watch the show, honestly. Not that it's a bad show. It's just I never watched it from the start, and I hate watching shows like in the middle. Like, I need to see it from the beginning, or I don't want to fucking do it. I have broken that rule for a few shows in the past, but it's usually because I do have the means to go back.
Now, what's this show about? I've never seen it.
Oh, it's actually a really interesting show. A lot of people love it. It's basically music moguls. It's that whole concept of rags to riches, and then the people that actually went from having nothing to now being rich as hell and everything like that. They eventually created this massive empire in the music industry and such. That's hence the name Empire.
Okay, I can see that being a decent concept for a show. And
yeah.
what was Jussie's character?
I don't actually remember what his character is exactly. If I remember correctly, he's supposed to play a relatively brilliant musician as well as a brilliant singer who just so happens to be the son of one of the main characters. Honestly, I've never really watched the show. I don't really know much on the show itself. I don't really know what Jussie's role was, but it was somewhat of a small part in comparison to some of their bigger name actors who are actually in it. And yeah, his character was slowly being written out of the show. As in, eventually he was going to go on some kind of a vacation and just never come back. Or maybe he goes on a vacation and dies, whatever the case was.
Okay, yeah, so basically, he decided, I'm about to be fired. If my name's all over the news, then they're going to keep me around.
Yeah, kind of like that self-made fame type of thing. Like, oh, Jussie is actually in the news again. The people are talking about him.
Also, is it self-made fame if you're famous because some guys beat you up?
I would say it's self-made if it looks like you may have hired them to do it.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, because I'm not saying Jussie Smollett did hire anyone. I'm not saying he put these guys up to it, or that this whole thing was 100% fabricated from the mind of Jussie himself. But I am saying it looks really goddamn suspicious. It definitely looks like this guy set up the whole thing.
I didn't do it. I swear to God, I didn't do it.
We're talking about Jussie Smollett, not you.
Who the fuck is Jussie Smollett?
Jussie.
He's that black guy that said he was beat up by white guys, but then they were black guys, and now it seems like he paid them to do it.
Yep.
Race baiting nonsense. Okay. Yep.
Let the hilarity ensue.
Okay. Well, I have to see some evidence on this because I don't know it, but yeah. Okay. If it is true, well, that's fucked up.
I mean, either way, this is a fucked up story, right? Like, either the guy was beat up by some racists, or else the guy's trying to stir the fucking pot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, let me just go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, considering how much has been going on about people fabricating evidence and trying to make it into some big race war kind of thing, because there's a lot of it happening just at this moment. I mean, I gotta say I'm skeptical of a lot of things. So, I mean, if this comes out as something like someone fabricated the whole thing, I'm like, can I really say I'm surprised? Really, like look at that those kids with that Aboriginal guy with his drum.
No, that's one of the things I wanted to mention. The Covington situation and this situation are kind of similar in that people wanted it to be true. That like, not for the reasons you'd think. Like, it wasn't the racists that wanted this black guy to have had his ass kicked. It was the progressives, the liberals. They wanted this story to be true. It's them that were pushing for it to be believed, for it to be taken as fact, despite the lack of evidence.
That's kind of the big theme of all of this bullshit nowadays, though. It's like I saw on Twitter earlier something along the lines of somebody saying, if it takes one hoax hate crime for you to suddenly start to want to disbelieve all hate crimes, it looks like you were just looking for a reason from the start. And I highly disagree with that. Yeah, there might be some people out there that are probably looking for that little bit of a catalyst to actually fucking, say, yeah, totally. He's just, all of them are a bunch of liars. No. Realistically speaking, when shit like this does actually happen, it is horrible. It is awful. It is fucking terrible. It should not happen. I don't understand why people actually sit there and think that most of the people around them, or at least most of the people in the world, would be okay with something like this. If a man was legitimately jumped for his sexual preference and or for his fucking race and beaten up, had a noose wrapped around his neck, even had bleach poured on him and all that shit, that's a horrible fucking thing to happen.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with that statement.
Yes, it's
I don't
terrible.
think there's a bunch of people lining up to disagree with you there, right? Across the board, most people are going to look at that and say, yeah, that's not right.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's just a fucked up thing. Now, here's where it gets really fucking annoying, because for the last several years, because I actually can't remember how long it's been going on or when it really started, but for the last several years, some of the worst actual crimes, such as people beating other people up for race, people actually getting raped, horrible violent crimes that have occurred, a lot of them have actually been complete fucking hoaxes, 100% false. And then there have been actual hate crimes. There have been actual race-based fucking violent crimes and actual rapes going on. And those stories are completely fucking ignored for the fake ones. And the fake ones are the ones who actually get all the fucking attention. And it's disgusting. And it makes you wonder, well, what's the fucking goddamn narrative now? What's the theme? What are you doing? You're fucking ruining this kind of shit for everyone. When you
it plays on two very important parts of telling a lie, of selling a lie. First off, you want to go for the emotional impact, right? You want to tug on the heartstrings. And violence, rape, stuff like that, it has that effect. But more than that, when you're telling a lie, you go for the big lie. You know? The less believable the lie is, the more willing people are to believe it. The harder a time they have believing that you would attempt to lie about it.
I think it doesn't help that we have a series of actors going out there right now. When I say actors, I mean people actively pushing narratives and stuff like that about, like, listen and believe. We all remember that one, the Anita Sarkeesian line. They're as silly as that is, some people actually believe it. Some people are actually taking it to heart and saying that, like, because we've sort of been conditioned to think that there is actually something like, let's say, like a rape culture or anything else. We've been drummed up to be super paranoid and to just up and take action in regards to some of these situations. I mean, look at, like, the most common one. I don't know if you heard about this one there, Schmeckel, but I know that me and Brock has talked about the whole Vic Mignogna situation.
I haven't heard a whole lot about that. He's the Dragon Ball Z guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah. He's yeah. You want to fill him in?
I looked more into it, and it's actually been getting worse.
Yes, it has. But yeah, no, essentially, I mean, people, like, we have the whole Me Too movement. We have this whole thing of, like, we have to act now. We have to do something or listen and believe the victims. In the case of Vic, this is a guy, these are just allegations because he hugs and kisses his fans. All right, that happens everywhere, at every convention. Celebrities do it. Voice actors do it. Game developers sometimes have to go through and do it. I mean, it just sort of happens. Sometimes the fans will come up and hug. It's not a big deal. But that normal, common thing that happens in conventions is what they're using to say that he, assaulted and raped people. Because he hugged and maybe kissed some people on the cheek.
I mean, what are we talking? Like, full-grown adults, or... Well, we talking kids.
The age,
there's a different degree of creepiness there, right?
Well, there is a different degree of creepiness, but it's not like he full on, like, grabbed them up the ass. Not like he's kissing them.
No, it's not like he's pussy grabbing or nothing, right? But
exactly.
I mean, even kissing a kid on the cheek, a little weird, right?
I mean, a little weird, but it's hardly something that you should.
It's not rape or anything like that, right?
Hey, yo, man, can I explain what actually happened?
Yeah. You sound like shit right now, though.
I know I do. I'm working. I apologize, but, like, y'all are missing a part of this story. I want to tell you it, then I'll get back off again.
Okay.
Here's what happened. All right, he was hitting on another dude's man. He's a gay dude. All right.
We know that.
And he got fucking hit in the face for it. Right? And his face was all fucked up, and he had to go to work the next day. He called his manager to find out what he could do. The manager told him, he said, well, let's make up a fucking story about what happened. And this is the story they came up with. They fucking set the whole thing up, and this is exactly how it fucking turned out.
All the cover for him hitting on another guy's guy.
Yep.
Shit, is that something that's confirmed or?
Well, yo, it's told by a fucking another gay dude who was in the club where he was at on fucking that day it happened. It was on Reddit. But I put it in, yo, dude, y'all need to watch my videos. I covered this shit. You know what I mean? Like fucking, fucking other rappers are out here talking about it right now. They've been talking about it for weeks about what actually happened.
I'll have to look into that because that would be an interesting twist on it.
Yeah, Joe Budden covered it on his podcast. You can look it up. You can watch my video. I slowed everything down so you can play it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And on top of that, I put in an actual hate crime that happened in Tennessee down in Nashville the same day. Fucking a white kid was murdered by a white dude was murdered by 5 black kids after he got robbed at gunpoint, and then he refused to give him his car keys. The kids were like 12 and 13. So they shot him for it.
Shit.
The fuck?
Yeah, and he was actually from my hometown. Well, not my hometown, like right next door to my hometown, fucking like 5 miles down the road from where the fuck I'm at.
See, and how the fuck does the media think that there isn't some kind of bullshit double standard, bullshit fucking narrative or favoritism going on when shit
the media,
like this is constantly going on?
The media covered it. But they covered it because the black parents are upset that their kids are going to do fucking life in prison at 12 years old because of this. Yep.
God damn it.
I fucking hate this world.
If you commit a murder, you should probably do time.
Yeah, they were like 12 years old. It was 3 girls and 2 boys.
Yeah, that's fucked up. Like the cynic says, I don't know if that's a hate crime. More just a crime unless you can prove there's the racial angle. But
well, it was 5 black kids in Nashville, Tennessee, right? And it was a white musician from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, right? Who was like down there trying to make it. And his parents had just bought him a car because his car had broke down, and fucking like he got killed, and now he just got buried up here.
Yeah, again, unless you can actually point out and prove that it was racially motivated, you really can't actually say that was an official hate crime. But that's still a crime nonetheless.
Yeah, that's fucking horrific is where I'm at.
Well, yeah, at the point where you have fucking 12-year-olds killing people. Again, I think we can all agree, not a good thing.
Absolutely. But yeah, fucking, I wanted to tell y'all that gay line about the story. I mean, if you want to, like, because Joe Budden literally broke it down on his podcast about what happened. Because he said the same shit happened to him. Fucking, like, because he was about to drop an album, and he got in a fight with, like, 6 dudes the night before that. And he was supposed to do a video shoot the next day. And fucking, he called his manager, and the first thing his manager said was, well, let's make up a story and say what fucking happened. You know what I mean? And they said this is what happens in the music industry and in the movie business. You know what I mean?
Fuck.
If you're fucking Joe Budden, just show up with the fucking black eye or whatever.
Yeah, not in the music video.
Rapper. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah, they want to make up a better story. So, like, you know what I mean? Fucking, because, like, I think it was over drugs or some bullshit. I don't know. They wanted to make the story better, so it wasn't about drugs. It was about something else. You know what I mean? More fucking soldiers, because drugs weren't cool back then like they are now. But, yeah, fucking, I wanted to tell y'all what actually happened. So, like, y'all have the real information about what the fucking deal is.
Either way, I mean, he's clearly still full of shit. He's a goddamn liar, and honestly, I hate that he's probably going to get away with all this bullshit.
He's probably not going to get away with it.
He's going to get away with it. He made this very public, and he's caught in it very publicly.
This is filing a false police report. You go to jail for this. You know what I mean? You might not go to jail. You'll probably get probation. Will be the deal, but he's most definitely going to get dinged for this at minimum. You know what I mean? He'll probably do like at least a month, you know what I mean? And then like do some time on fucking probation or whatever. But yeah, fucking y'all need to like, dude, watch my videos. I'll be trying to keep up with shit. You know what I mean? So fucking like y'all can actually hear the full details. You know what I mean? Because I keep my ear to the street about this type of shit. All right?
No, fair enough. But I just want to point out, like, you honestly think a high-profile gay black man is really gonna get any kind of actual punishment for this shit? Halle Berry fucking ran a person over while drunk. She committed two kinds of crime. Halle Berry years ago drunkenly fucking ran somebody over and got away with it.
Yo,
I didn't know that.
Ted Kennedy fucking drove a bitch into a goddamn lake and left her there. And
I knew that.
Look, you need to stop bringing up Ted Kennedy. We all know that the Kennedys were some of the most fucked up human beings alive.
Bruce Jenner killed a bitch.
Ted Kennedy's got the fucking cake for the fucking Kennedys, though, because that's not an exaggeration. He drove the chick into the fucking lake, and then he was like, "All right, fuck it, I'm going."
Yo, Bruce Jenner killed a bitch before they did that 60-minute things when he came out as a woman.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like a month before they did the 60 Minutes thing, Bruce Jenner killed a bitch.
Yeah, and then he actually had to pay a massive fucking fine for it, and actually did do a little bit of time. But it was house arrest.
Yeah, he didn't do any actual time in jail. But he killed a bitch.
How did he kill it?
Yo, he fucking pushed her into fucking traffic with his fucking Hummer.
Yeah.
That should be a little more than a fine.
Yeah, I feel where you are. But like, yeah, as I said, man, you know what I mean? I'm gonna get off here because I sound like ass and I'm working and shit. But you know what I mean? Yo, y'all go watch my video if you want. Yo, play it on stream. You know what I mean? Legit, like fucking everything should be cool, and you're not gonna get dinged from me. I will not strike you. My shit's not approved by YouTube anyway. You know what I mean? Like, and you can like watch like Joe Budden and his squad break the whole thing down because at first they were like, who the fuck is this dude that somebody would be fucking like hawking him down in the middle of the night to put a fucking noose on his neck? He's nobody to fucking important. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the other thing that a lot of people kept bringing up. Who the fuck saw this guy and was like, yeah, I fucking recognize that guy, Jussie Smollett, from some bit part on I don't know, is Empire a big show?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not. And nobody really cared. Like, legitimately, everybody was like, who gives a fuck about him? And that's, you know what I mean, that's like the whole deal. And that's what led them into this. Then they said, like, fucking the first tweet that they put out about it, his managers, his fucking, his celebrity, whatever, where the fuck handles his social media, put out, oh, you know, he got attacked. Let's make sure his music gets streamed 50 million times, right? And like, there's all types of shit. Like, yo, go watch my video. Like, legit, I have a whole bunch of information in there that y'all probably should know about. Legit, all right?
I just put the link to that video in the side chat, so.
Yeah, we'll pull it up in a little bit.
Yeah, like, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that, like, y'all don't know about because you're not paying attention to the street motherfuckers who actually, like, know about these dudes. And I do. So I was like, fuck it. I pulled it up. I put it in my video. I slowed it down so that I wouldn't get banged so bad with the copyright shit. But, yeah, you know what I mean? I'll holler at y'all motherfuckers there. Smeckle, thank you. And Brockus, thank you for the link, man. I'll holler at you. Oh, and Semaj, thank you again for the fucking avatars, homie. These shits is bomb as fuck.
I'm glad you like it, man. Take care.
Later.
Right.
You know,
so, yeah, if that's true, the whole gay angle, that adds some interesting little possibilities there. I don't know how reliable Joe Budden and a Reddit post are as sources, but if it was to cover up some fight he got in and his manager's agent told him to lie about it, there's more people in trouble than just Jussie and two Nigerian fellows.
Well, yeah, obviously. But that just goes to show you that fucking Hollywood is fake as hell. And as much as I do enjoy a lot of shows that come out of Hollywood, and I'm not going to lie that there's a lot of, you know, stuff that does exist in Hollywood that I would personally like to preserve, like the MCU. I do like the MCU. I like some of the individual DCEU movies. There are certain movies that I actually am a huge fan of, all that shit. But for the most part, I'm fucking done with Hollywood's lies. I'm done with how fucking fake almost everything that comes out of California truly is. Burn it. Burn it all.
No, like, what do you expect from people who literally make a living out of
lying? Yeah.
Well, it's called acting.
It's still lying.
And I mean, I'm not saying that all actors are liars, but you know, they've got to be more inclined to be, right? It's part of their day-to-day life.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, I'll be right back. I need a new coffee. The Coke's not doing it. Coca-Cola, not cocaine. I'm not war skiing.
Oh my. Yeah, good follow up there, man. Good thing covering your. I would have said, considering how many times Pino kept talking about his stuff, he's just using us for the views. But then I realized, oh, well, he has more subs than us.
Oh, that is the sad part about it, isn't it?
Man, that it is. But that's okay. I mean, we used to be big, man. We used to be big, and then we got hacked, and then fucking Beef used pics started putting on nonsense, clickbait. I want to fucking rage about that, but I'm too busy right now.
Still fucking pissed off about that myself, actually.
Yeah, who isn't? Anyway, we're talking about liars. Fucking people
liars.
getting around with murder.
Dude, I have been very upset about the fucking Vic Mignogna, Monica Rial bullshit because, like, Jamie Marchi is, or is it Jamie Marchi or is it Jussie Marchi? I think it's Jamie Marchi. Jamie Marchi is somebody else who was actually joined up and sided with Monica Rial. Do you know who she's the voice actor for?
No. Who?
Brias Gremery, my waifu. The fucking my absolute favorite fucking female anime character from one of my absolute favorite animes is now fucking siding. And here's the thing, she has her own case coming up because shortly after all this bullshit exploded, somebody came forward and decided to say when they were a little kid, as a dude, when they were a kid at a convention, Marchi fucking sexually assaulted him. And he has held it inside for 7 fucking years. He is going to the police to make a police report. So at this point, all we have to do is sit back and wait and see what happens and shit. But shortly after this was actually announced on Twitter, that person's Twitter account was shadow banned, and that tweet was fucking deleted.
Yeah, okay. So there's more nonsense going on. Well, here's the way I see things. I wouldn't get too worked up when it comes to a lot of these voice actors because what happened, what I believe has happened, is that a movement has come up there, and an outrage machine has sort of started up there, like a kind of like a mob. And it happens in businesses too. I mean, corporations and whatnot are not, immune from all that. Even like groups here on YouTube between our little various different communities and whatnot can happen. You can get a small group, and they can be a very vocal group, but they can get a lot done because they're so vocal. And I think people are more concerned about maintaining their job and making sure they can, still be around, because they probably look at what's happening to Vic, and anyone that sides with him will potentially, lose their job. I mean, and so you're expecting them to do this. So in order to maintain any form of employment, and I think Vic is aware of this, so I don't think he's taking any of this personally, because I wouldn't if I was in his situation. He knows perfectly well that these people are just trying to save their jobs, and they have to say what they have to say. I wouldn't even be surprised if they're even talking to Vic and saying, "Look, I love you, man, but I need to feed my kids."
Yeah, actually, that's not necessarily 100% true.
Well, and again, we won't know until like stuff happens. So.
Well, there's a YouTuber who goes by Perfection, and you should check out some of his videos. He's actually had breaking news videos about this situation, and this is kind of where I found a lot of my information. But Perfection found out that not only was Jamie Marchi joining in the fray, and of course we know that Christopher Sabat has actually sided with Monica Rial, but here's the twist. Jamie Marchi is actually has a higher position in Funimation than some people might think. Now, she is a voice actor, yes, but she's also the head of translation. She's actually the one who approves all the translations from Japanese to English. So anytime for X amount of time that she's actually been in that position, we've seen some translations from sub to dub, and it doesn't match up because the sub says one thing and the dub says something completely different. it's basically on her. And a lot of the times whenever you get those subtle little feminist comments, it's because of her. In fact, she is the one in what is it, Kobayashi's Dragon Maids. There's a part in episode 12, this was pointed out by Perfection, where one of the characters says some kind of shit about patriarchy. Like legitimately just throws shade at patriarchy.
You're supposed to entertain us, not talk about fucking patriarchy.
Yeah,
holy shit, it's Raph.
Jamie Marchi actually fucking it's
just need to get
I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that, Jimmy.
I gotta get you a basement. Oh my god. I don't know.
Wait,
although you need a staircase, but you need a staircase with a blood stain on it.
So, anyways, knowing that Vic Mignogna is actually a Christian, and knowing that feminists, especially extreme feminists, do not like Christians in the slightest because their beliefs do not match up with this belief, all that shit.
It doesn't help that a large portion of the social justice movement also are part of the Atheist Plus movement.
Well, there's that too.
So I mean, if you're an atheist, I mean, it kind of makes us look a lot kind of bad.
Yeah.
I mean, Schmeckel, you're a non-believer here, right?
Yeah.
And then Brockis, I know you are, and so am I. So I mean, like, this is fucking making us look terrible.
It really is. Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Well,
because we're not crazy.
I mean, well, like, Schmeckel's the only one here that's remotely normal because he's not talking about anime because he doesn't give a rat's ass.
True.
But
yeah,
but we're all
I'm lost with the anime shit. But this Vic
Mignogna
shit sounds it sounds like he's been a little bit creepy, not sexual assaulter.
Well, here's the thing, though. All of the accusations for Vic have been debunked, and there is somebody, Perfection has actually alluded to this, and so does Hero High. They know of another YouTuber who has debunked the beginnings of the supposed Vic Mignogna creepy stories. Once again, pointing out that this guy has been taken out of context, and all the shit that he does at conventions and stuff, like from when this all started, people have been fucking lying about him because they don't like him. I even found out from another YouTuber, I can't remember who it was, I found this, discovered this with, but Sean Schimmel, voice of Goku, has never liked Vic Mignogna. And one of the reasons why he's kept his mouth shut on this is because his bias will be much more obvious if he actually opens his mouth. But yes, there is video evidence out there of Sean Schimmel talking massive shit on Vic Mignogna in an interview. Like, to the point where you would think to yourself, why are these guys working in the same company if they fucking if this one despises the other one? It's not. He kind of might turn it into a hostile work environment. I don't know.
It's the easier thing is like most of these people are rarely ever in the same room together. True. And that's because you're a voice actor. You come in and you do your hour while you're there and just, record your lines. That's it. Mm-hmm. Chances of you actually meeting these people is like only at conventions. If
that actually sounds like an ideal job.
That's what I was thinking. It's like, really, how can you have such bad experiences with this guy? You see him like, every summer. You don't have to meet him at all.
It seems like the only interactions they'd need to have would be, like you said, at conventions, and then, maybe passing each other by at work. One's coming while the other's going.
Now, there is another situation where you would meet them more often, and that's probably what they're alluding to. And that, in case of Vic, he didn't just do voice acting. And I mean, that's what he's well known for in his roles. But he's also been project managers for various different projects. And I think he was also director for some anime, so he would tell people how, what to do and how to say things. Maybe he's a terrible boss because he's directing how people are talking. Maybe he's harsher that way. I don't know.
I could see something like that. You have a guy who's enough of an asshole when he's your superior. You're gonna walk away with a pretty bad opinion of the guy.
Well, and not only that, I mean, he earned his job and everything. Now, what's pissing some people off, because one of the people who've been like spearheading this Kick Vic thing was one of his coworkers, a fellow voice actor by the name of Monica Riel. But what's pissing off a lot of the people here who are like on the pro Vic side is because he got fired when he got fired from Funimation and Rooster Teeth. He was also fired from being project manager of some of these projects that he was working on with Rooster Teeth. And guess who they hired to replace him? Monica Riel, the very person who's spearheading a lot of these Kick Vic kind of stuff. It's like she literally took his job. She's taking his job, and he got him fired. It sounds like it makes her look like a very big sleazeball.
Yeah, that does seem a little sketchy.
Yeah. So it's not, yeah. Most people who are looking at this are thinking like she's pretty bad. Doesn't help that every time someone asks you something on Twitter or makes a criticism about you, you go, I'm taking this tweet and I'm sending it to the police and my lawyer.
Oh, fuck. She's one of those.
It's embarrassing to watch. It's like everyone on Twitter, it's just like, you say anything at all. She just copies and pastes, sending it to my lawyer and to law enforcement. I think someone said, like, she started saying she's sending it to Homeland Security, which is like, why would Homeland Security?
They're going to take an active interest in some fucking tweets.
Like, why would Homeland Security give a rat's ass about you? You're a voice actor. You're probably one of the most, like, benign people out there. You don't get nothing.
Yeah, it's people like that have an overinflated sense of self-worth.
I think
you have to think you're a pretty big fucking deal to think that Homeland Security gives a shit about you.
I think it's someone who hasn't spent too much time on the internet and doesn't know how Twitter works and all this drama.
No, that's more than not knowing how Twitter works. That's not knowing how anything that doesn't revolve around you works.
Well, I mean, like, if you start acting like this, essentially having temper tantrums on the internet, people are just going to keep pushing because you keep giving them what they want. Because they want to see you, like, lash out and have these meltdowns and have these public Twitter spats and everything, because it's amusing. I mean, some of these things are like the origin of blood sports and all that. This is what people fucking live off of. And she should know, if you've been on the internet long enough, like, you don't feed the trolls. You just fucking walk away. You made your accusations. Don't fucking respond.
So I want to point out that Lionel is losing his shit in the chat. Lionel, will you calm the fuck down? I barely even know who the hell Greg Aries is. All right. I swear to God, if you look at the chat, he's losing his fucking mind. He's saying that we need to get rid of Greg Aries, fuck that faggot, all this and that. And he just, I guess he fucking despises Greg Aries. I looked up Greg. He's just another voice actor over at Funimation.
Well, unless he's saying nonsense on Twitter, which he could.
A lot of people are way too heated about voice actors. I have never cared that much about a voice actor.
Well, I know of a handful of voice actors that are actually really fucking cool and very, very entertaining, and they do their own thing outside of voice acting. I
mean, voice acting, like, look, you're translating someone else's stuff into English. It's not that big of a deal. And I sort of agree with you, Schmeckel. It's not really something you need to really be like, yeah, it's a big deal. Let's swoon, let's fanboy over this stuff. It's not important.
I mean, there are some that stick out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like John DiMaggio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
There are some that, they're recognizable. They've had big roles in big shows, shit like that. I can't see feeling that strongly about any of them. Never mind some guy that was in one of the many dubs of Dragon Ball Z.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, you've witnessed this from, like, you've grown up with these cartoons, and a lot of other people grow up with the Japanese ones. They probably feel the same way about their actors as you do about yours, about this.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
So when you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense. But
Yeah,
I mean,
I can't see feeling that strongly about Phil Hartman, for example. Obviously dead now. His murder. I didn't feel that strongly about that. You know, he was a voice actor. He played some characters I liked in some shows I liked. That was the extent of my interest in him.
yeah, fair enough. And these are actors. I mean, but we just get emotionally attached to them because I mean they perform a great role or something that really speaks to us.
Troy McClure.
Oh, Troy McClure. I miss Troy McClure. It was sorry.
Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such films as Nothing Anything That Exists.
God, good character. Excellent voice.
Phil Hartman was a good fucking actor, a good character in general. Like, if you ever saw him on the screen or heard his voice, you were in for a treat.
Oh, yeah. He was, fuck, what was that show he was in? News Radio. One of his best fucking roles. It was the first time I saw his face. I had been expecting him to look like Troy McClure or Lionel Hutz or something like that. He was not the guy you'd expect that voice to come out of.
Yeah, when you get to meet the voice actors, it's usually fairly surprising. There was this. I remember like the worst case of that is I did see an anime called Inuyasha, and the main character, the actor who plays the main character Inuyasha, there, I saw him, fucking short bald guy who's a little tubby and all that, just fucking ruined the image for me.
It's like John DiMaggio. He's this big fucking redneck looking guy.
But isn't he the one that also plays like Bender?
Yeah.
Oh, fine. I love that guy.
Okay. Have you guys ever watched the documentary I Know That Voice?
No.
Oh, it's super good. I highly recommend checking it out. It's basically just a documentary that kind of follows some very well-known voice actors, John DiMaggio being one of them. And at one point, there's another voice actor. I'm forgetting his name, but he's a hefty black dude who has actually been in a lot of shit. Like if you need a deep-voiced black character or a deep-voiced character in general, usually they go to this guy. But during the thing, they were talking about this one cartoon where it's these three old black men sitting there having a conversation. Funny enough, not a single one of those characters was voiced by an actual black actor. As every one of them was voiced by John DiMaggio and two other white voice actors. But the best part is as they're playing that, the black dude that they were interviewing was pretty much saying, like, John DiMaggio is probably the blackest man you'll ever meet. And I threw my fucking hands in the air. I was like, all right, I quit. I don't fucking know what to think anymore. What's happening?
Or the guy who plays Cleveland in Family Guy. He's a white guy as well.
This skinny white dude.
Well, to be fair, he does like that character. They just give him like a funny sounding voice.
Yeah, he doesn't really have much of a black voice.
Not really. It was like that weird little. I am Cleveland Brown, and I am here to. I can't say the rest of the words because I might get struck. But it's
I don't think your singing was that spot on, Jimmy. I think we're fine.
I don't know. Maybe it's the lyrics. I don't know. I don't know how fucking copyright laws things work because YouTube will change it on the spot.
Yeah,
fucking
just
YouTube.
saying the words from a song could potentially get you from a fucking copyright strike.
Yeah, exactly. So you just have to make shit up as you go.
No, I mean, like, legitimately, all you have to do is say something like, shut the hell up and move along. And then suddenly Move Along has appeared in X amount of fucking, like, songs and shit like that, especially that one song called Move Along. And one of the studios could very easily just fucking copyright strike it because you said those words.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be like the studio itself. It could be just one of their employees or something whose job it is to listen to the internet and actually find this shit.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Well, I mean, it would be a false claim. You can't actually copyright just a couple words unless it's, you know, like a slogan.
It depends. Like some people can do it. Like there's a YouTuber out there who makes like royalty-free music for people to use for their videos. You just sort of use it. All he asks is that you link him in your description. But I mean, that stuff is there for free for anyone to use. Companies have actually, struck videos on his behalf because
Really?
they can. Yes, and they can do that.
Yeah, and see, that's ridiculous.
And that's what
they shouldn't be able to do it on his behalf.
No, but some of these companies can do that and then take the money. Because because the guy might say, "Oh yeah, you can put ads on. That's fine. I don't care. Enjoy yourself, and let's all have a good time here on the internet." Well, I mean, companies will do that, and they're just these small. What?
Found the voice actor I was talking about, the black dude who said that John DiMaggio is the blackest man you'll ever meet. It was voice actor Kevin Michael Richardson.
See that big bald guy?
Yes.
There we go. Yeah, he's a pretty black man himself.
Yeah, and that dude said that John DiMaggio's blacker than him.
Really? Oh,
yes. It was hilarious because then you actually you see the black guy actually speaking and everything. It's like, yeah, okay, I expect that. But then you watch the clip as they're interviewing him and talking about how John DiMaggio plays a lot of voices you really wouldn't expect him to play. And it's the three old black dudes playing domino in front of fucking some place, I don't know, stereotype fucking scene and shit like that. And they're just talking about monster movies. And I fucking started laughing my ass off because they were talking about Frankenstein's monster. It was like, no. Frankenstein wasn't the name of the monster. He was the name of the scientist. The monster's name was Tomas. What? Why the fuck would the monster's name be Tomas? What kind of shit is this? What world do I live in?
See, voice acting is a fun thing because it's not like you have to run the risk of putting on blackface and pretending to be a different race. It's just
don't worry, it's coming. Pretty soon white people will not be able to do the black voice on TV shows, movies, shit like that. That's definitely one of the things that's gonna be under fire within the next couple of years.
In a way, we already are in that because we look at Apu from The Simpsons. You guys remember that incident that happened?
That's true. Yeah, they'll start calling
to
it
be fair,
blackface.
I think that was more about the character than about the fact that a white guy did the voice.
Well, it was a documentary done by this comedian, this Indian comedian, talking about how Apu's some stereotype and it's borderline racist or something. I mean, he doesn't say that in his documentary. He's very loose with it, but it's very heavily implied that it's a racist thing. At least that's what I got from watching it. It's pretty ridiculous.
I will say this much. I would get fucking absolutely pissed if that comedian did that documentary as a literal fucking 2-hour-long joke or hour-and-a-half-long joke. And it's just a joke saying people need to stop getting fucking their panties in a twist over supposed stereotype characters or cartoon characters or fictional characters simply because they come from the same kind of cultural background as you and stuff like that. I would be pissed if that was actually what he was trying to do, but then people took it fucking seriously and he didn't say anything.
Yeah, it was all just a joke and none of us got it.
Yeah, and then he just kept running with the fucking serious narrative of it. Like, oh yeah, no, I'm very serious. Apu is a very problematic character, blah, blah, blah. But then, you find out later on the son of a bitch was lying because it was just a goddamn joke the entire fucking time. And he just never said anything because, career would be over at that point.
If I ever tell a joke and it becomes some viral fucking movement, damn right I'm standing by that fucking joke. I have no values.
No, if somebody would go out of their way to make that elaborate of a fucking joke, and maybe they run with it for like a year or two, but they eventually come out and say like, I wasn't actually being serious, this was a joke, you guys need to fucking like seriously chill the fuck out and stop acting like this is an actual thing, all that stuff. I would demand that man have his own comedy special like at least 3 times a fucking year for the next 5 years, because that's just brilliance right there. I'm like, I want to know what you're gonna do next. You fooled people for an hour and a half that lasted, I don't know, two to 3 extra years afterwards because of a stupid fucking joke. I want to know what. Give him a show, Comedy Central. Give this man a fucking show right now.
Yeah, that's all in the if and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, he did get like the Simpsons were under fire for that, and I thought that was ridiculous. It was brought on by this documentary, this comedian, and so the voice actor who plays Apu is he also does like Mr. Burns and a whole whack of different.
Shit. Which it wasn't Castellaneta, was it?
I don't know. No, I don't believe so. It was a different actor, and but this also is a guy who was going to walk away because he wanted more money, and eventually I think they worked out a deal. I don't know what that deal is, but so yeah, he essentially was like he didn't want the drama that would come with that, and so he was about to walk away from The Simpsons again. First time was over money. This time was over the social problems that could have come up there if there was like an outrage of him playing Apu. But I'm like, Apu's not a bad guy. It's not like the case.
Apu is not only not a bad guy, he's one of the more fleshed out secondary characters on the show.
And a lot of the problems that they say is like his voice. It's like a very stereotypical Indian kind of voice. It's a funny sounding voice. Yeah, okay, but it's a cartoon. He's supposed to have a funny sounding voice because it's entertaining.
Yeah, Homer Simpson has a pretty fucking funny sounding voice too.
Well,
you don't actually run into a whole lot of white people that sound like that.
Well, if you also look like if you're comparing characters, like Apu is actually like he's represented in a very positive way. I mean, he's a business owner. He has multiple various different degrees. He makes a good living. He's a wonderful husband. He does all this great stuff. He's been a part of every kind of like community movement. He's always there to help out the community. He's always there.
Women love him. When he's a bachelor, he's madly successful.
Oh God, yes. He's done really well. He knows famous musicians and actors. Like he is probably like represented in the most positive way. And then compared to one of the other protagonists in the show, Homer Simpson. Fucking look at how white people are goddamn treated in the show. Look at your main male character. He's a fucking overweight, fat loser who's barely educated in anything, and he was incompetent in his job. And compared to like, where's the racism?
Well, that's actually a good point. Most of the characters in The Simpsons are incompetent to varying degrees.
Hmm.
If you look at the more competent characters, you get people like Apu, Dr. Hibbert, I guess Frank to a degree. A lot of the more competent characters are minorities. Even among the police, you have Wiggum, Eddie, and Lou. Lou's the only one with a fucking brain in his head.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, never mind being consistently portrayed as in a positive light. Apu's one of the characters that we see developed the most. We see him as a bachelor. We see him with his arranged marriage. We see him have octuplets, have an affair. We see a lot of fucking Apu.
Mm-hmm. Well, because people love Apu. He's awesome. And yes, he has a funny voice. And?
You know who else has a funny voice? Dr. Nick.
Dr. Nick Riviera. Oh, Dr. Nick. Fucking love Dr. Nick.
Fucking Homer Simpson. Barney Gumble.
Chief Wiggum.
Every time somebody brings up Dr. Nick, my favorite Dr. Nick moment has got to be, "Hi, everybody! Homer Simpson." Okay, that was actually weird. I just love that because Mr. Burns couldn't say anything except Homer Simpson, and he legitimately says, "Hi, Dr. Nick," with just Homer Simpson, and I swear the reaction was fucking priceless. I watched it over and over again as a kid. I couldn't get enough of that joke.
That was when The Simpsons was good to watch.
It really was.
Oh man, it's gone downhill. Classic Simpsons is always so good.
Remember when Apu lost the Quickie Mart?
Yes, I remember when Apu lost the Quickie Mart. Who needs the Quickie Mart?
Not him.
Oh, that song. Oh, and then James Woods makes an appearance, and he's like working at the Quickie Mart. Oh, I love it. Oh, my favorite line is though, "Oh, hot lead, how I miss it, or how I miss you." And again, how many times has he been shot? He still comes back. He still goes to work. Motherfucker is one of the most endearing character.
Yeah, and see, if I were the voice actor that had played him for, multiple decades, I'd probably be a little more committed to my job. I wouldn't be sitting there going, yeah, you know what, you're right, he's racist. I'd have a little more faith in the character I've been playing for, again, multiple decades.
I honestly think that there's all these people out there with too much free time on their hands, and they also see that saying up some sort of a false outrage will get you a lot of views and follows and all the other kinds of stuff, and it'll give you temporary, positive input to your whatever it is you're doing. But it won't be very good in the long run because people look at what you're saying and go, hey, that's kind of racist, or that's kind of stupid. Like anyone who hears someone say, listen and believe, will be like, that's moronic. Why would you do that?
No, yeah, it's there are ideas that sound nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Listen and believe. It sounds like a nice enough concept, right?
Right.
This person says they're a victim, believe them, because if you are a victim, obviously it's gonna suck to have everyone doubt you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they ignore the other half of the equation, with listen and believe being, the whoever's being accused. It plays on people's ability to ignore what they don't want, right? To ignore the bad. I don't want to say it's common in the left. It's common across the board. It's more the left are louder about it.
I always think that people who are, let's say, politically correct are usually people who like to lead outrage-related stuff. And we like to associate with the left, but I think that's only because the left is what's, popular right now. I mean, back in, if we always look back to anything that was more popular or what was in power at the time, there was political correctness in that too. Like one of which being like people who were in the church, because the church was such a big community aspect. Political correctness was in there as well. Those were the people who were leading charges like Pokemon teaches evolution, and that's a form of like devil worship or something like that.
That's crazy. Not political correctness.
Well,
no, but it's the same. I get where Jimmy's going with it.
I understand what he's getting with it too.
Censorship.
I know it's a variation. There are always like people out there who are part of the outrage culture, but they usually take charge in places of power, and they go to places like what's in charge at the time.
I understand.
But you're right. It was a bad comparison. But I am saying like religion was one of the things that went into, and then that created like the atheist movement of the 90s that led into what we have today. It's just sort of connected, is what I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying. It's that's more attuned to, instead of political correctness, that's actually what would be considered political censorship, and that goes way fucking back. That goes all the way back to like ancient Egypt, ancient Rome, ancient Greek times. Political censorship has always existed. because there are always going to be things that the people in charge don't want the fucking common folk to know. But no, I totally get what you're actually saying. It does make a lot of sense.
I mean, I guess the easiest solution to try and combat some of this kind of stuff, and it's a bit of a radical solution, but I think we need to take away the vote from women. No.
Personally, I think we should take away the vote entirely.
Oh, no, that's a dictatorship. That's worse.
No, as long as you're in the right class, a dictatorship can work out just fine.
Well, let me put it this way, Semaj. People think that capitalism is a pure dictatorship, so I mean, I don't see much of a difference anymore. You know, you might as well give the extremists the exact same thing that they want. They already claim all white people are racist, so fuck it. Let's just be horrible to anyone who doesn't have a light enough skin tone. Like fucking, like let's just go ahead and fucking, you know, wipe out the ghettos. Like let's just go, you know, we won't have to do a whole lot, but just give them what they want. Let's give them their race war.
Personally, I think that racism should go in both directions. I not only don't like people darker than me, I don't like people lighter than me either.
I don't really trust people lighter than me because those are sneaky sons of bitches. I have watched and read enough fantasy stories to know that pale skinned people are usually necromancers, and we can't trust them. I'm talking to you, Magog. You fuck. I know what you're up to over there.
Oh, yeah, I see you in the chat.
No, I'm just throwing shade at him, hoping that he actually gets wind of this.
Oh.
I likes to start shit with Magog because it confuses people who see me also worshiping Magog. It is a very back and forth relationship.
I suppose so. So what's our feelings on cultural appropriation?
Personally, I'm for it.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Schmeckel is neither Irish nor a cab driver, so he's appropriating some culture.
I could be an Irish cab driver.
You lying cunt. You're not from Boston either. But that hat.
Bostonian Irish.
Yeah, no, you can't.
No, I don't want to be either of those things.
By the way, Semaj, as the only person here that actually is part Mexican, I give you full permission to wear that luchador mask. There, you're no longer appropriating the fucking culture.
There you go. See there? That's the way I thought.
No, but the argument, like the whole appropriation argument, is particularly dumb because appropriation is actually a good thing. It's how all of our modern cultures came to be. It's the appropriation is an important part of assimilation. We expect, obviously, assimilation from the people immigrating. But a degree of appropriation makes that go a lot more smoothly, right? Mm-hmm. They're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can benefit a lot by integrating like other cultures into your system. I mean, isn't that like a good thing? Trying to become like a multicultural system to improve our society. Well,
no, the way I see it, it's not even the importance of multiculturalism or anything like that. It's if that culture has a good idea, take that idea because it's a good one. Well, that's how you get better cultures, by taking the good things from cultures and shedding the bad.
It's not even just that. It is actually an advancement in society. For example, the Roman Empire really only got as big as they did because whenever they would go to an area and conquer and such like that, they would take that people's fucking ideas, their engineering, their ingenuity and all that stuff, and then they would just implicate it into their own fucking army and such. Like, I can't remember who came up with the catapult, but it was not the Romans, and the Romans took that.
Probably the Chinese. Catapult's a very sneaky weapon.
There's a possibility that it was the Chinese and shit. And then eventually the Romans, they traded with the Egyptians and they got like, you know, better armor, better steel and stuff like that. The Egyptians themselves also got better weapons, better food. And their empire was actually growing kind of. And then eventually both empires eventually fell and stuff. And this happens over and over again throughout history. Whenever a conquering people sweep the nations and stuff, if there's something new and something more innovative that they can use to be a better army or a better empire, they implicate it into their own fucking into their own culture and shit. They basically take it and say, now we're going to use it because it fucking works. Holy shit. And eventually, when we stopped fighting war after war after war all the goddamn time, I would say sometime around the Renaissance, we just started trading with each other all the fucking time. The Italians would trade their fucking silk goddamn robes and all kinds of cool shit with the English. The English would trade their fucking tea and crumpets and whatever the hell they had with the Germans. The Germans would give everybody chocolate and beer. It was just everybody gained something amazing from other people around them. Europe would trade with the Middle East would trade with Europe, but we'd trade with North Africa, we'd eventually trade with China. That's just how fucking societies inevitably got bigger and better over time.
Exactly. Like mixing cultures is how you build new cultures. It's how you improve upon existing cultures.
Exactly.
Obviously, you do so only by taking the good aspects of other cultures. You know, some cultures do have very objectively shitty aspects to them, right? Child marriage, for example, slavery, shit like that. But
are you saying they're not sending their best?
They are not sending their best. When they send their best, they blow themselves up against skyscrapers. Too soon?
Too soon.
It's a little too soon, but it was exactly what we needed. And frankly, I'm tired of you holding back. Okay, you need to be a little more assertive.
Yeah, at least hold off till October once we get the Trudeau government out. Then you'll be safe to say whatever you want.
But no, like those same cultures that have things like child marriage, like slavery, they also have potentially, I can't name any off the top of my head, good aspects that can be learned from. To people, not everyone, to a lot of people on the left, taking those aspects is appropriation. In reality, it's just how you improve as a culture. Yeah. It's important to learn from others, I guess, would be the core statement there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important to take, you know, some aspects of these. I mean, a lot of people like to say that assimilating different cultures into yours will make it stronger. And multiculturalism is a good thing. God, we're going into culture, aren't we? Fuck, multiculturalism. We're jumping all over the place. We're supposed to be talking about accusations. Now we're talking about fucking bringing in people together. I guess I'll finish this thought. The idea is that we bring them all together, and hopefully they'll all get along. Well, we know that's not true. That's not really how it works.
Well, see, it's a completely different idea to just throw cultures together and hope they work than it is to take the good aspects of other cultures and learn from them, right?
Well, I think like the way of doing things in, let's say, immigration is the best thing to do is to take them in little bits. Take some of them. Put them into the area, let them assimilate, let them learn the language, get jobs, that kind of stuff. And then later on, you bring in a little bit more, you let them assimilate and grow and, you know, get jobs and learn the language and all the other kinds of stuff. What you shouldn't do is bring in people by the millions. And yes, we're talking about Canada and Europe and all that kind of stuff. When you bring in people by the millions, they
Yeah,
don't.
that's a logistical issue, even before you account for the fact that they have a different culture, different language, shit like that. When you account for all the rest of that, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, I mean, like, I think it's the numbers that's really the problem, because when you get people in large amounts of numbers, enough to run certain parts of your country. Let's say if you bring in enough to fill a province or a state, well, why should they bother integrating when they can just be their own self-sustaining country? In other words, what I'm saying is that when you bring in people with enough numbers, they'll just sort of ghettoize, isolate themselves, not integrate. Why should they? They have enough numbers to run their own little system.
Yeah, you drop all of China in the middle of India, and suddenly India's China, right?
Yeah, well, or at least they'll fight for territory and all that kind of stuff. That's essentially what happens. And so, like in our situation here in Canada, we brought in a lot of people recently. We all know who I'm talking about. And
we brought in some ladies and gentlemen from more of the Middle Eastern area of the world.
even though the politically correct term is of the Asian variety.
Oh, is that what we're supposed to say now?
It's been that way for a little while. It's irritating as all hell. I hate it, and all my local like my Chinese friends and whatnot, they fucking hate it because now they're getting blamed for everything.
Yeah, like, if I hear Asian, I'm not thinking a brown guy.
Yeah,
no, you don't.
That's because Asia is a massive fucking continent, and it is legitimately split down the middle. Because if it's not Russia, of course, it's basically you've got your Middle Eastern people, still Asian, and then you have your Oriental people, the Chinese, the Mongolians, the Taiwanese, so on and so forth, and they're the ones we've always referred to as Asian. And then we made the distinction of calling the people from India, Pakistan, and all those other fucking countries Middle Eastern. We made the distinctions. One was Asian, yes, based off of the fucking continent, because we were just lazy in that. Wow. We just also because in the early 1900s, well, I wouldn't say the early 1900s, somewhere around the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, somewhere around there, a few decades ago, it was racist to call them fucking Oriental. So we just changed it to Asian.
They are from the Orient.
From the Orient, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean that could have been earlier forms of political correctness, which is
also what do we call the fucking Russians? Half of them are European, and the other half are fucking freezing to death Asians at this point, because most of Russia is now in the fucking northern part of Asia, the frozen tundra that nobody wants to touch, or the massive fucking desert nobody wants to go to. Russia owns all that shit.
It's technically correct to call these people Asian because they are Asian.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're just speaking among peers and shit like that, you say Asian, you think a certain color and a certain shape of eye, right?
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
it's a lot. I just find it. I find it strange that they would take issue with something like Middle Eastern because that's specifically location based, right?
They didn't.
Just like Oriental, location based.
Do you know who actually had the fucking problem with these words, to be honest?
White people.
No.
White college students.
Well, yes,
female college students.
Primarily, it was a bunch of white college students, white female college students, white male college students who might as well be fucking female because they're just giant pussies anyways. But on top of that, the people that convinced the people to actually make these types of changes and shit were American-born Middle Eastern people, American-born Oriental people. It was as simple as that. These people their parents may have come from the old country, or maybe their grandparents did.
Because American Middle Eastern sounds really dumb.
I guess.
So they just prefer to be American Asian or Asian American.
I don't know, it's fucking stupid because they want us to jump through hoops to simplify everything, yet at the same time they want us to jump through hoops to be very fucking specific. And I just want to strangle these people and fucking tell them you can't have both. It's either you want it to be complicated or you want it to be simplified. Shut the fuck up.
Well, and on top of all that, I mean, these are people in colleges and universities. The average population really don't care. I mean, like the average population is super confused when they turn on the news and they hear that, you know, there have been like a series of like violent attacks brought on by Asians. Now, last time they checked, well, the Asians were getting along just fine here. Why are the Asians now outraged and everything? Nothing makes sense because they're trying to overly generalize.
Yep.
I mean, it was okay. It got weird. There was a time I was listening to the news. It got really, really weird because when we went through the let's say cultural enrichment, and we had millions and millions of people from a Middle Eastern-ish kind of location. The news was broadcasting about all the various different attacks and all that have been on the increase, and they would talk about it fairly accurately, talking about how yes, it was people from the Middle East, it was this kind of thing, people from Syria or people from Somalia or whatever. Not Somalia. I can't fucking Somalia. Yeah, Somalian people. It was in the news a lot. I'm like, holy shit, things are going south. And then they changed that, and they just didn't report on it at all. It was like crime was on the increase. And you're hearing it on the news, and then for the next couple of days, you didn't hear about anything. No violence whatsoever. I thought, well, that was weird. Things were going to hell in the handbasket, and now it's
that got cleared up fucking quick.
Yeah, how would you fucking do that? And some people have heard, like, that's when I was trying to figure out what was going on. And then that's one of the ways I found out about the rebel. And they actually were going through like police reports and what. And no, the crime was still going up. There was still stuff happening. They just weren't talking about it on the news. I thought,
I mean, at least that's all that was happening here. I mean, in England they had that whole thing with all the grooming gangs and stuff that the police blatantly allowed to happen to avoid race issues.
I'm trying to remember. Was it Sweden that had that rape thing happen on New Year's, where they set off a bunch of fireworks and then they literally tore women away from their partners and all that and drag them down to the suburb the subway to rape them? Man, that fucking horrified me.
I haven't heard about this.
Oh, that's old news. That was like a year or so ago, or a year back, even longer than that. It was fucking horrific.
Yeah. Do you remember around the time that Trump, I think, it was shortly after Trump had actually won the presidency and the inauguration and all that stuff. One of his first speeches he had given, at some point he had said, "Look at what's happening in Sweden." Immediately following after, MSNBC and CNN started claiming that there was nothing going on over in Sweden, that the president has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. He's full of shit. He's just trying to make he's trying to make a big deal out of nothing. And then international fucking reports started being actually reported through alternate media, and people fucking learned, yeah, there were rape gangs in Sweden. On New Year's Eve, around that same time, there was a rape gang who fucking grabbed a bunch of different women, tore them away from their families, their friends, whoever was, fucking there.
The chat is saying that it was Germany.
Yeah,
was it Germany?
Yeah, Cologne, Germany.
Okay, so that happened in Germany. But Sweden was still dealing with their own fucking rape gangs. Sweden still has fucking rape gangs.
Sweden's bought so far into the Islamic shit. They're allowing Muslims who go there to keep their child brides, which is I don't think I have to say that that's wrong.
Can I just point out that the Scandinavian countries hate Sweden? A lot of European countries hate Sweden. And for them to just allow shit like this to continue only made everyone hate Sweden that much more.
Well, what's going to end up happening about all this is because people are starting to militarize, if you will. People are buying guns. I think Germany had like a 30% increase in gun purchases as a result of all this has been going on. It's been an ongoing thing, and it's going to get bad. I mean, if the government doesn't step in and do something, the people might take action, and no one's going to be happy with the results. And that's why, like, certain more, let's say, I don't want to say populist governments will be elected or more conservative related stuff, but that's exactly what is happening because people want change. This is ridiculous.
And see, I don't know a whole lot about most of the world. Sweden, from what I do know, they're not the neutral one, right? First off, I'll get that out of the way. Switzerland's the neutral one, right?
I believe so.
Okay, so yeah, Sweden, they're the little country then, right? Near Holland.
Oh, you're asking us geographical locations? I think so.
It doesn't really matter where they are. They're tiny, is the point, right?
Yeah, they're there.
It would stand to reason their military is probably not excessively large, right?
Right.
That makes the possibility of I don't know what you call it, civilian uprising.
Pretty high.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily high. It's a lot more realistic than it would be somewhere like the States, right, where they have massive military power.
Yeah. Well, and not just the military power, but also the population in general have a lot of guns. They're very pro-gun over there in the States. I mean, we are here in Canada as well, but we're not as active in it, let's say. And I've still never looked into how to get a gun here in Canada. I keep meaning to do so, but yeah.
All right, so Thurg says Sweden is fairly big by European standards and is between Norway and Finland, so I'm doing great for geography today.
Good. It's good to hear.
He's not doing good for geography at all. That's a lie. You need to stop lying to
I got 21 out of 50 states, Brockus.
I watched the videos. You barely got anything. Don't even fucking try to I got this. You also didn't fucking do it in time.
No, they only gave me 7 minutes. There's 50 states. That's a lot of states per minute, Brockus.
You should have learned from Animaniacs. They drilled that song into you.
No, I love the fact that when he did Michigan, he straight up says, "I know where Michigan is because Shu got it wrong and then got it right."
Yeah, that was the only reason I knew which one was Michigan.
And I'm just sitting here watching. He lucked out on New Jersey.
I would have known Michigan was up north somewhere, though.
The only reason
that's one of the few states I knew wasn't in the South.
The only reason he got New York is because he knows New York is north of New Jersey. So going off of where New Jersey's location was, there was only one actual choice. He got Michigan because he had watched the Shoe on Head video. He already knew where Washington and California was because, let's be honest, California is pretty much just little Canada at this fucking point. So, of course, the Canadian knows where the hell that is. He knows where Texas is because everyone knows where Texas is. There are people in Africa who have never seen a fucking map that know where Texas is. Just you show them a globe. It's like, that's what Texas is.
I knew where Florida was. I got that one all on my own.
Everyone knows where Florida is because that's the little dick hanging off the side of the fucking country.
If I had gotten to it, I would have known where Maine was.
Probably.
Sure, I guessed New Hampshire, right?
You had no idea where the fuck Oregon was. That was the funny one to me. Oh, Louisiana. I cracked the fuck up as you were trying to figure out where Louisiana is. I'm like, the boot. Click the boot, you dumb fucking goddamn you schmeckle, you moron.
The worst thing is when Louisiana, I knew it was south, and I was like, okay, and it's either near water or near Mexico. And I picked. If I hadn't picked the one I had picked, I would have got the right one.
For anyone who is not very good at geography, but wants to know something, AP has family in Louisiana. He is in Texas and shit. I think he even actually had said he was actually born in Louisiana. Either way, Texas is directly west of Louisiana, and Louisiana is directly east of Texas. So when I say the boot, it's the boot-shaped state right next to Texas.
What are you talking about?
God damn you. God damn you fucking overly Canadian little Canadian motherfucker.
Anyway, I'll be right back. I gotta piss and get a new coffee.
Keep talking to me like that, I'll give you a boot to the head.
The funny thing is that I know that you could. You actually can. Here's the best part, because you can draw it. I may be pretty good at drawing, but I don't really have the means to draw all that much right now, so my drawing skills are kind of shitty. But fuck you.
I could do a boot to the head.
Yeah, you do. You could. Just don't.
Well, I mean, I shouldn't, but I mean, fuck yeah, I could.
It would be funny. Oh, Semaj, what if you drew yourself, right? Okay, you're drawing yourself wearing boots, but you're also wearing a cami outfit because for some reason you decided to put on your avatar decided to put on boots, and then you matched it, and for some reason Street Fighter cami. Don't know why you're doing this, but yeah, you're doing Cami's drill kick to my head.
No, you know why I'm not gonna do that? Fucking. I might not be into ass, but that booty may convert me. Every time I see it, I think I'm sinning. I can't help you. I just I sweat like I sit there in church whenever I look at Cammy. I mean, that booty fucking it does stuff to you.
It really did. I would say Chun-Li, she started off being a normally designed woman, but then an artist took liberties and gave her thicker muscular thighs. So, it converted a lot of people to loving thighs. They think thighs are fucking fantastic. Thick thighs saves lives, all that shit. Everybody loves big titties, and there's plenty of stuff out there to give everybody the whole impression. Yeah, big titties are fucking nice. But then there's Cammy. Cammy's one of those characters that, if you're not an ass man, she will make you one.
Yeah. Still a Mexican guy. I don't care if Cammy isn't real. My boner doesn't care.
SMG's trying to tell me Chun-Li always had thick thighs, you moron. Cammy had normal designed thighs back in Street Fighter and Street Fighter 2. It wasn't until sometime after Street Fighter 2 Turbo that fucking Chun-Li started actually getting thicker leg designs.
Well, I mean, yeah, she just kept working out her legs, and we're all blessed because of it.
I think it was somewhere around Street Fighter Alpha that the artist actually decided to take it to the next level with the because she was wearing pants or a suit and pants in Street Fighter Alpha, wasn't she?
I believe so.
Either way,
she went from using her little Chinese outfit and then went on to wearing some sort of a sports leotard something or other in Alpha, and I didn't really care for that. And then now she's got some sort of a dress thing, but she's showing off them legs. She fucking that bitch worked for those legs, and she's not afraid to show them off.
Yeah. But no, yeah, go back to the original Cammy designs in the original artwork that they had for her, in the original sprite design that they had for her. Her legs are not that much thicker than, say, Cammy's or other female characters that they've actually introduced to the story sometime after that and stuff. It wasn't until sometime around, I think, Street Fighter Alpha that Chun-Li actually got thicker thigh designs. It was something that was kind of overlooked, but that's why everybody thinks she's always had thick thigh designs. No, not really. She had slightly thicker thighs than I would say probably most anime characters at that time, but it wasn't any thicker than a lot of the female characters that were in the game around that time and after.
Every time Schmeckle goes, we start talking about fucking weed-related stuff. I was also going to say that I remember listening to Sargon talking about Chung Li, and he fucking loves her, and part of the reason why he uses the Street Fighter song in his outro, and I'm like, this guy likes the thick thighs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Street Fighter was one of those games. It was the gateway fighter game for just about every Japanese and American kid growing up.
I do not understand any attraction to anything that includes the word thick.
That's fine. You don't have to.
Wait, hold on. I do. Thick
Wait,
titties.
Thick isn't the word I'd use for titties, though.
Really?
Thick, it doesn't sound like the right word.
It's basically just another way of saying big titties.
Yeah, but see, I hear thick, I think fat.
That's because your mind works differently than the rest of the world.
Well, I mean, also lingo changes over the air on the internet. I mean, it just sort of happens. It used to be like when you said the word sick, it often meant like something was wrong. But now it's like oh man, that's a sick move and all that. Even though that's also old slang. But words change; they gain other meanings as time goes on.
Yeah, that's true. What's even funnier though is because like in the early '90s, if you heard a black person say that, well, if you heard anyone say that something was ill, they were basically saying it was cool as fuck. But if you heard somebody, and it was typically always a white guy, say that shit was sick, they were saying it was cool as fuck. And so it was like at the same time, two words that had completely different meanings prior to this were both being utilized in different cultures. It's just for rock and roll, it was sick. For rap and hip hop, it was ill. Okay.
It's people had a tendency during the 90s to use typically bad words for good things. It was kind of dumb.
I guess irony was cool in the fucking 90s.
Kind of. It was edgy.
Actually, yeah, that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
You were saying it ironically, and then 10 years later, you actually used the phrase, "Oh, I was doing it ironically," and then now nobody understands irony.
No one understands irony, and now everything is lit. Everybody's fam. Things are on fire. I think. I don't understand lingo nowadays.
I don't like the new slang. It scares and confuses me.
And you're the youngest one out of the three of us, which is fucking weird.
I hear somebody say fam and I feel threatened.
Every time
holding my pockets closed.
I just hear it and go, what? I don't know. If I catch like the meme or whatever it is that references it, then I'm like, oh, you're talking about that. Oh, okay. All right. But if I don't get it, I'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you stupid? I imagine that's how every parent felt when their kid kept asking, do you know the way?
But do you know the way?
I know the way of the devil.
Do you know the way?
I have Ebola.
You have Ebola. You must know. You must have Ebola to know the way.
I do. See,
I don't miss that one.
You don't miss the Uganda Knuckles? I fucking loved Uganda Knuckles. Still
Uganda
do.
Knuckles is still fucking hilarious to me. Yes, I will still quote Uganda Knuckles. I don't give a shit. Oh, it's a dead meme. Fuck you. It's a fun meme.
People love it. It's fun. It's still there. Same thing with that whole Bowsette thing. Yeah.
But Stone Mexican guy was in the chat earlier saying that King of Fighters was a superior fighting game. Truth be told, again, Street Fighter was the gateway drug for just about every kid in America, in the UK, and in pretty much Japan when it came to fighting games. Everyone loved and played the shit out of Street Fighter. Mortal Kombat came out, and there was a clear divide. Some people wanted the extreme Mortal Kombat type brutality and all that shit, which is mostly just America and the UK. Some people in Japan, but not a whole lot. But then King of Fighters came out and really stepped the fucking game up. I actually agree with Stone Mexican Guy. King of Fighters is a much better fighting game. It gives you way more bang for your buck. The story is probably more interesting, and I love the characters, man. Like
when I was a kid, a friend of mine told me that there's an arcade game where you can play Marvel characters and they can fight with Capcom characters, and I call them a fucking liar. I've never apologized to him. I never had the opportunity to say I'm sorry. You're absolutely right, because when I saw that game, it fucking changed my mind. I was like, what? What are cartoon characters doing, having fights with these characters? And yes, I also knew they had a comic book, but I knew them best from the Fox cartoon. And it gets fucking rogue.
Oh, he's trying to say Double Dragons on the NES was a gateway fighting game. That is a beat 'em up, sir. That is a side scroller beat 'em up. There is a massive difference between fighter games and side scroller beat 'em ups. Ninja Turtles had a side scroller beat 'em up. Actually, they had a few. I played the shit out of it whenever I went to the movie theaters with my fucking family, and there was some time before and after the fucking movie was over. I would just grab whatever quarters I had and go play the shit out of that game, beat your ass with Michelangelo.
Man, Ninja Turtles was one of the silliest shows on television, and I loved every moment of it. It's like they throw anything at you. It was just crazy, absolute insanity.
Yeah. Yes, Lionel, I remember Bloody Roar, and I remember how much of a fucking flop the game was, despite how much fun it actually is.
Yeah, well, I mean, nothing can ever beat Darkstalkers.
King of Fighters beats Darkstalkers.
You and I both know that's bullshit.
No. I'm dead serious. No. King of Fighters continues to be a franchise that exists to this day, whereas Darkstalkers sold its fucking rights off, or at least its characters' rights off, to SNK and Capcom, which is why you see these characters appear in other people's video games. You don't get Darkstalkers games anymore, and it's because it fucking died. You might have enjoyed Darkstalkers a great deal more than, like, say, King of Fighters, and rightfully so. Darkstalkers was actually a lot of fucking fun. I think one of my favorite characters was the zombie. That dude was fucking interesting as hell.
That's a very long-winded way of saying that something is better. And let's be honest here, you're wrong. And you'll continue to be wrong on this subject.
Okay, sales don't lie, sir. King of Fighters continues to make video games to this day. SNK is still in business.
Continues to make video games. That's your hallmark. Continues.
Yes.
Fucking Halo still makes games, but it's still dead. It's a fucking dead franchise, all right?
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Bungie made Halo what it is, and then Bungie sold the rights of Halo off to another fucking studio who killed the franchise. So there is an actual difference.
Look, they still make those games, and it's still dead. Don't fucking bring zombies into this conversation, all right? Fucking Darkstalkers is still the best. And it died in its prime, by the way. They're not making any more Darkstalkers games. Got your point with that, but it's still better.
I've never heard of either of these games.
That's fine. It's a bizarre fighting game nerd talk that we've ever had. And I don't even play that many fighting games.
True. Darkstalkers is they took the classic horror movie characters and then added a bunch of other monsters from other other cultural backgrounds and this and that and stuff, and then put them in a fighting game and just made them fight each other. So there's a werewolf, a vampire. There's actually several vampires. There's a werewolf, vampires, mummies, zombies. I guess you could say a paladin of sorts. It's like one of the few human characters that's supposed to have holy power that actually, kills the Darkstalkers and shit. There's ghosts. It's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, that sounds like an alright game. Obviously I'm younger than you guys. I didn't play a whole lot of the original Nintendo. At a Super Nintendo. I liked Killer Instinct. That was probably the only fighting game I played. Oh, and Mortal Kombat.
Oh, everyone remembers Mortal Kombat. Man, that was a great game. So violent.
I preferred Killer Instinct.
You know,
Much preferred Killer Instinct.
I like the character designs of Killer Instinct. I have never played it.
Oh, it's so good. They've actually they rebooted the series 2 years ago. Even the new game is pretty good. Stone Mexican guy. I'm 25. A good decade younger than Baracus. Decade, right? You're 35, right?
I'm 34, but I'm actually turning 35 later this year.
Stone Mexican guy says the last Killer Instinct had a Battletoad. Yes, it did. It had Rash. Yes, I do look 40.
The last
I'm the young one here.
The last Killer Instinct implicated cyberpunk and fucking steampunk imagery everywhere. And some people thought it was fucking awesome, but I sat back and went, what did you do to my fucking fighting game, you cunts?
All right, so steampunk's the one with all the gears and shit. What's cyberpunk?
Cyberpunk's essentially the same shit, except everybody looks like some kind of a cyborg. Oh, here's a good one. What was that fucking video game that came out recently where you were essentially an assassin in a not too distant future?
Assassin's Creed?
No, it was different. You wore some kind of weird mask. It was something like Infamous.
Oh,
no, not Infamous. Infamous was a superhero game.
No, I know what you're talking about. Fuck, what was that game called? I think it was like popular for a hot second.
Yeah, oh wait, here I think I found a picture.
Dishonored.
Dishonored, yeah. So basically, it's stuff like you would see in Dishonored versus, well, everybody knows what the fuck steampunk is.
Okay, that they kind of seem like pretty similar concepts.
It is. It's one of them holds on to the old Victorian era stuff, and then all hyper super advanced technology is all based off of, oddly enough, steam technology and shit. And then cyberpunk is pretty much the exact same shit. It's just it's also like Star Trek in the Victorian age had a fucking baby.
There was, speaking of steampunk, there was a Kickstarter, and I think it was successfully funded, but I don't know what happened. But essentially, a bunch of old Disney animators were going to make a fully animated movie with a steampunk aesthetic in Victorian era and all that kind of stuff, but with the old school hand-drawn Disney animation. And from some of the clips that they released, I thought, oh, this is fucking awesome. But it's been a couple of years since I've heard from them. And I'm like, I hope that they're still making the project, because I miss old school Disney. Everything's all CG now.
I like CG when it's done well, and Disney does usually do it well. But there's kind of like a nostalgia to the old hand-drawn cartoons, right?
Well, I mean, these old hand-drawn cartoons are still so good that, I mean, kids still grow up watching them. And all these new live-action adaptations are just the animated movies, just done with live-action actors and everything. And then it doesn't make them better, because a lot of the actors that they would get to do those movies, because it's all, again, back to the voice acting stuff, because you can't see them, but a lot of them are performed by like Broadway actors. And they sound good, and because they're talented singers and everything. You look at Beauty and the Beast. What's her name who plays the Beauty? What's her name from Hogwarts or whatever? Harry Potter.
Oh, Emma Watson.
Thank you, Emma Watson. She is not that good of a singer. All right,
she's not that good of a singer. She wasn't that good of an actress. That whole fucking movie was a goddamn travesty.
And that's part of the problem with some of these people. I mean, it just doesn't quite work with these actors. They're not performers like that. You get away with that with animation because you can't see you know, the actors and everything. And a lot of these people, like in the original Beauty and Beast, I think she was like in her 40s or something along those lines. You can't tell.
She was probably a classically trained singer.
Exactly. You couldn't tell anything, but it was fabulous. You didn't have to see their faces because you were swept away in the imagination of what was going on with what was on the screen. You don't get that anymore, and that's sad. It's all kinds of sad. It's all CG, and now we got the Lion King coming out. What's the other? Oh, Aladdin. Oh,
And that doesn't look good.
no. Oh, no. No, you're right. That looks terrible.
It might be a good movie, but it looks aesthetically bad.
Well, all right. Two problems. There's the obvious one with the genie, because, man, I think that was like old. That wasn't like finished animation.
It can't have been. His face was in the wrong place on his head.
Exactly, and the muscles were like really ugly, and I'm like, this is not looking good. So hopefully they'll fix that up. But my second problem, and it goes to what I was saying with the actors, because the only one who spoke in there was Jafar. He's like, "Get me the lamp," that kind of stuff.
And he's got this little soft fucking voice instead of the evil voice that Jafar had.
Oh, oh god, Jafar was one of the best villains because just listen to him. It was like patience, Iago. It was just I can't do it justice. This guy was fabulous.
His voice had a presence. It's like listening to Jeremy Irons speak or Tim Curry before his stroke. Mm-hmm. When you heard that voice, for some reason, internally, you are terrified and excited and entertained all at the same time.
Yeah, these people, oh, so good, so talented, and this is the kind of stuff you don't get with live action. I mean, the actors are doing the best they can. And the other problem with this Aladdin movie is that there was this big push for getting actual like Middle Eastern actors to play everyone, and that's kind of a problem because getting actors of that particular race, there's not a lot of them out there.
There are enough, and to be honest, I'm completely on board with having actors who look and sound the part play the roles, right? Mm-hmm. The thing is, especially with Jafar, the actor doesn't look or sound the role.
That's right.
And I think a lot of that is, Jafar was an evil motherfucker of an Arab, right? Yeah. And we live in a time where you can't necessarily portray an Arab as an evil motherfucker.
That's the other part I'm scared of.
They softened the voice, they've softened the facial features, and they've probably softened the character.
Do you think that there'll be an aspect of this movie they'll treat it like they did with Maleficent, and that'll make it a villain that you can relate to?
I don't know what Maleficent is.
Maleficent is the villain from Sleeping Beauty. She was the one who put on the curse. The woman who became the dragon.
I don't think I'm familiar with Sleeping Beauty. There's a dragon?
Yeah, there's a dragon at the end. Maleficent turns into it. Hold on. Yeah,
Brockus will bring up some images. But yeah, I mean, a few years ago, Angelina Jolie played in this movie called Maleficent. They took the villain from Sleeping Beauty and made her into like the main character, someone you're supposed to relate to, who was essentially, out to get revenge and was therefore just in cursing a child. Didn't quite work out. It was a pretty ridiculous movie, to say the least.
I could see them trying something like that with Jafar. I can't remember what was Jafar's motivation for being a bad guy.
He wanted to rule Agrabah.
Yeah, he just wanted to have his 3 wishes and just gain stuff.
What's actually funny is that Jafar in the movie clearly has absolutely no real sexual desire for Jasmine. His whole goal in the entire movie is to gain power. That's all he wants. He wants to become the Sultan. So he wants to figure out a way to actually convince the Sultan he wants the genie so he can actually make himself Sultan. But since he can't actually use the genie, he ends up scheming to basically marry Jasmine so he can kill the Sultan and become Sultan himself. He just wants to rule Agrabah. He wants to be in power. That's it. That's all his fucking thing was. He was most likely going to kill Jasmine after the fucking wedding anyways.
Okay, Brogus, can you click on the human Maleficent so Schmeckel can have a point of reference? Yeah, that's the villain from Sleeping Beauty.
Okay, that doesn't look familiar, actually.
Oh,
I don't know if I've ever seen Sleeping Beauty.
It's a relatively old one.
Well, here's an example. Maybe if your kid gets old enough, you'll probably watch it. So why wouldn't you? It'll be on like Disney Plus when that comes out. You can sit down and watch it with her, and then watch the live action Maleficent movie. You can see it's a piece of shit.
It's terrible, and yes, I'm tired of Hollywood or anyone really trying to give me like villains that we can relate to. Sometimes I don't want my villains to be relatable. We all get it. We there's a darker side within all of us. You know, we don't have to necessarily see the villain of any Bond film and actually think to ourselves, you know, I could totally see myself being Goldfinger. I mean,
You know, Jaws was once a baby bouncing on his mommy's lap.
yeah, it's unnecessary. Sometimes you just need the villain to just be a villain. This is one of the reasons why the Joker is actually such a great fucking character. Yes, there is that whole backstory from the Killing Joke that gives you like a window into what may have created the Joker or what caused him to become the Joker. But at the same time, even the Joker is unsure if that actually happened. He's so fucking crazy. His own memories are a broken mirror, and he doesn't actually know what the truth is anymore. So he makes up one story after another. But the Joker's motivations are purely evil. He is essentially, I'm tired of people also trying to say that the Joker is chaotic. Stop it. If anything, he's chaotic evil. He's not actually chaotic, just 100% chaotic. No. He's chaotic evil. Let's get down to brass tacks. He is fucking chaotic evil. He's an evil scumbag, and he makes a great fucking villain because he doesn't need to be relatable for you to actually see him as the villain. He doesn't need to be relatable for you to be entertained by him as a villain. He's a great villain as just a villain. And sometimes I just need my villains to fucking be villains. I don't want to sympathize with every fucking villain.
Well, that's the thing. In a lot of ways, storytelling has become a lot better over the years. But it's also become a lot more pretentious. Everything has to be meta, and everybody thinks they're deep for trying to make their characters psychologically complex, right? What people don't realize is not every villain needs to be a fucking Shades of Grey type scenario, right?
Well,
sometimes there is just black, you know, that not black people. It's not a race thing. Sometimes there are just shitty people, you know.
When you look at a character like, let's say, Deadpool, he's a deconstruction of the superhero narrative. He breaks the fourth wall. He does all that kind of stuff, and that's part of his joke, and that's part of the thing that we like about him. That's just him. I don't want like all the characters in a particular franchise to be deconstructed and become all this other stuff. That's kind of like what we saw with Maleficent. We're going to take the character, the villain, and we're going to deconstruct her and make her into like the hero and have this other perspective.
Well, that's exactly what it is. This obsession with the idea that all of the villains and the heroes need to be, you know, in that gray area rather than just good or bad. It's a conscious effort to, you know, deconstruct the hero, the villain, the whole concept, right? And it's like you said, it shouldn't be every character. It should be the exception, not the new rule.
Exactly. So, but that I think that's part of the problem with a lot of what we're seeing right now. Like, even in, let's say, Marvel Comics, a lot of people are trying to like dissect the characters and make them more complex and all the other kind of stuff. Captain America isn't actually a hero. By all means, he's also a villain. Henceforth, why he's now a Nazi, or was a Nazi. It's hard to tell. They're very confused when it comes to that character.
Yeah, right now, Captain America's kind of in flux.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a bad guy. He's a good guy. He's a bad. I don't know. No one knows at this point.
It depends on who's the fucking president. You know, Trump's president right now. Captain America's evil.
I guess.
You get a liberal in, and Captain America's good again.
Kind of.
Yeah,
one of the other things that I think is kind of annoying is there's the classic, one of the most classic hero stories that anybody has ever actually read or is familiar with is the King Arthur Chronicles, or the King Arthur stories and shit, right? Great hero story. You know, a peasant turns out to be the secret heir to the throne of Britain, Arthur Pendragon. Great fucking king. Everybody loves him. Sadly, he ends up getting betrayed by his wife and best friend. You know what was amazing about those stories originally? Morgana Le Fay was nothing more than the apprentice at one point of Merlin. And Morgana basically was, I guess at one point in the story, she may have been a former lover of Merlin, but she tampered with dark magic. And when Merlin found out, he basically cast her out of whatever, you know, sect that he was creating and shit like that. It's like, no, you're no longer my apprentice. Get the fuck out. You're a piece of shit. I told you not to tamper with this stuff. It's, you know, it's dangerous. It's going to fucking corrupt you. And that's exactly what happens. Morgana Le Fay, she tampers with shit she's not supposed to. She becomes extremely corrupt, and then she becomes a villain. She's one of King Arthur's villains, one of his biggest villains. And then the knight, or the fallen knight that actually defeats Arthur is Mordred. Mordred is supposedly, you know, this knight, this dark knight that Morgana had actually trained from a youth to become the very weapon that would eventually kill Arthur. And technically he does. But in that fight, Arthur kills Mordred as well, because they were two great opposing forces. But Arthur continues to live on because Avalon, that whole story and everything like that. And it's a great story because the villains are villains, and the only real exposition of how Morgana Le Fay or how Mordred actually were villains is simply one became corrupted because of their greed and their curiosity. The other was raised to be evil. That's how they were villains. That's all we really needed. Now everybody's going off of this bullshit. Well, the reason why Morgana Le Fay is actually against Arthur is because she's his half-sister, and she just wants to be recognized, and she wants to be loved like she never was because her father or her stepdad pushed her aside because this reason or that reason. And Mordred doesn't fucking like Arthur because Mordred looked up to Arthur, but Arthur shunned him at one point. Or maybe he was actually the incest baby of Morgana Le Fay, and Morgana told him that Arthur fucking threw you away because he didn't want you because of who your mother is, and so Mordred wants to. It's so fucking stupid.
Well, yeah, it's one thing to add complexities to a character, right? Like, develop the shit out of a character, as long as you're not taking it into soap opera territory, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a point where it's too complex to be believable or entertaining. You know, it gets to the point where, you know, you're 10 levels deep into the one aspect of the lore because they've overcomplicated it.
Yeah. Sometimes I just want the hero to be the hero. I don't need him to be like this overly complicated thing. I don't need him to be this broken hero who lost his family and that's why he's a hero. I don't always need him to be, you know, shunned by his people and was cast out or anything. I don't need him to be the last of his kind or any shit like that. Sometimes I just need the hero to just be a hero because he has the power to do this stuff So he does because he believes it's the right thing to do. And sometimes I just need the villain to just be a villain. I don't need to have in-depth information about either of these characters. Why do you want to be a hero? It's the right thing to do. Fan-fucking-tastic. Why are you a villain? Because I can. Fucking great. Why can't we go back to this?
Like, you can make a really interesting hero villain that does have, all the reasoning behind it, twisted, convoluted backstory, all that. But you don't need it, and it's not where you should start when you're building these characters, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's as simple as that guy's a dick. He wants to be rich and will do shitty things to get rich.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people just want things to be nice and simple. They don't need anything complicated. I mean, let's be honest here. Some of us don't have a lot of time to invest in big, long, complicated characters. Like it's kind of like me watching Breaking Bad. I like Breaking Bad, but it's a long, complicated story. Well, not all that complicated, but complicated enough that you have to be invested many, many hours into the show just to wait until you see the end of it. I've watched it. I don't want to watch it again. I have fun, but it's not worth seeing like multiple times.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Breaking Bad was a fantastic series. I loved the villain is actually the hero aspect of it, and the hero is actually the villain. I love that whole thing because it's a nice little turn on the head of classic tropes and everything. But once you've experienced the whole thing, you kind of lose interest afterwards, and you just don't give a shit anymore.
And that's kind of what's happening with their spin-off series, Better Call Saul. People they've already invested their time. I think they're done.
Yeah.
Just give us, fairly simple to understand stories. We don't need big, complicated things. One example being is like, in a modern day scenario, we have reboots that are going on. They're like all overly complicated. Nothing is simple. Everything's like, you guys probably never saw it, but there's that show, that remake of the She-Ra show. And that's and Schmeckel is out. I mean the original show is not complex. It is simple. It is a very simple little cartoon show where character comes in, gives sword to their sibling, and then they adventures pursue. Nothing big, nothing overly needed for that. And this new show that's come out there, it's got a lot of bizarre, complicated things. Hey, Brock, is he there?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about She-Ra.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure. You guys disappeared for a second.
I had to mute myself because somebody decided to come into my room.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wanted to make sure. Because I'm talking about fucking remakes, and they're all terrible.
They are.
I think we just need original IPs. Why not?
There was there's a YouTuber that I caught wind of not too long ago, and I think it was actually because I believe Schmeckel retweeted one of his tweets, which eventually following it back, I discovered that this dude had a pretty good head on his shoulder. Now, I actually saw that he also has some political beliefs that I really don't actually side with. But when it came to recasting or changing classically white characters and using black actors in replacement for them and such, he's not a fan of this. He's also made the stance he wouldn't be a fan if they actually took classically black characters and made white people play them and shit. Like, it's not fair no matter which side is actually doing it and shit. And he also made a comment about remakes. It's the fucking issue with, like, you're hijacking what is already popular, what we already know to work. This is already a name. This is already a character that everybody already knows. Is She-Ra. people already know who She-Ra is. She's the fucking younger sister of He-Man. She's just as powerful. She's awesome. She was an 80s cartoon character, lasted about 2.5 seasons worth of show and everything like that, had an interesting toy line, all that stuff. It got hijacked because the fucking creators wanted to create a She-Ra-like show, but it wouldn't have worked on its own. So hijack She-Ra. And it's pathetic.
Well, I mean, I'm my feelings of it is I've made it clear multiple times. I don't think that the people working on these projects actually care. They came in thinking they want to do something of their own, which is fair enough. I mean, when you see a show like, let's say, She-Ra, it's not really something that would be for the younger generation, because you have a lot of kids here who have never seen the original. They have no reference of it. So if they have no reference
I never watched the original.
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, it was. Well, I think you're younger than. Well, it's even older than me, actually. I never grew up with She-Ra. I did, however, get reruns of He-Man, some old VHS tapes that my mom tapes, thinking that we'd watch it when we were living on farms, because there was no TV on farms. Well, some TV, not much. And she was right. I grew up with old cartoons like that. Anyway, fuck. Like, when you make something like She-Ra, no one right now knows anything about it. So what's the point in bringing it back if it's not doing it to try and win favor with the old fans?
Well, that's actually
not to win favor at all. It's to make a quick buck off of capitalizing off of the name.
Well, I mean, yeah, but a lot of the people who get that quick buck, the people who buy a lot of these toys because they really like them, would probably be the old fans. They're banking on the people who grew up watching She-Ra, or even He-Man for that matter. And it actually kind of worked, because interest in He-Man has actually gone up.
I suppose. Did you ever, Semaj, did you ever actually watch the movie The Producers?
No.
Oh. Well, there's the original Producers that Mel Brooks did, and then there was the remake that was done not too long ago with Matthew Broderick, Will Ferrell, and Jason Alexander, I believe. Anyways, the plot to The Producers is that there is this guy who is a musical producer in New York, and he's trying to get the next musical, or he's trying to get the next play, whatever the case is, and he's having a lot of money troubles. And then I guess Matthew Broderick plays like an accountant or some shit, and he just got hired on for Anthony Alexander's case, and so the two of them are talking, and eventually Anthony, or what is his fucking name? Jason Alexander. Jason eventually convinces Matthew's character to help him invest into the next big thing, the next play. Now, here's the thing. When they're going over what they're doing, they're trying to intentionally present the worst fucking possible musical in the history of musicals. Their intention is to actually create a massive flop. And the reason why is because, for some reason, within the first few weeks of its release, flops do better than successful fucking musicals, successful plays and shit. And I think it's because of the hate watch. It gets word of mouth spread around faster than anything else, because it's such a bad thing. So many more people want to come and see it and experience it for themselves and say, yeah, no, that was actually absolutely fucking terrible. The entire plot of The Producers is they're intentionally trying to create garbage so they make a fuckload of money and then bounce the fuck out. That was the whole plot to The Producers. It turns out the twist is the shitfest that they gave the audience was so horribly entertaining that it was a massive success. And it actually made them money. And then, like, the producers continue to make horrible fucking musicals like that. That's the general fucking premise and shit. I think that's actually what's going on with certain studios nowadays. The She-Ra thing, I think it was because they knew they were going to get hate viewers from the old show. I think that was it. And then Schmeckel pointed out it's gotten more people interested in He-Man.
No, I don't think it's necessarily that they were banking on the hate viewers. They were. I don't think there was ever any intention for it to be a long-term project.
Yeah,
I think it was to make a quick buck, capitalizing off of an existing popular franchise, or at least formerly popular franchise. I don't think there was ever any concern for how well it went beyond the initial reaction.
Sure, but they knew it was going to do bad. Again, I bring up another example. Whenever it comes to comic book issue number ones, they are the most bought books out of any series across the board because collectors especially want to buy multiples of issue one. What is the most expensive comic book that exists to this day? Action Comics number one, the first appearance of Superman. The very character that eventually gave us characters that that made Marvel and DC the massive fucking juggernauts in comic book industry that they are to this day and shit. So number ones are extremely well sought after. Everybody wants number ones, which is one of the reasons why Marvel consistently keeps rebooting one book after another because they're trying to keep sales going. That's why. But on top of that, one of the other things that is actually well known is that if you've got a bad book and you know it's a bad book, it's going to get a lot of fucking purchases done because of the massive hate that follows it. People will buy it so they can shit on it. It's fucking weird, I know, but that is one of the reasons why certain books sold really fucking well when it came to Marvel's SJW shit. Why did the Mighty Thor issue number one sell so well? Why did Captain Marvel issue number one sell so well? And Ms. Marvel issue number one, and so on. Why did they sell so well? Because one, you've got the collectors and the other people out there that actually want to have the issue ones because they know that this is going to be so shitty, it's eventually going to cancel it. Regardless of how many issue number ones they've produced, still, it could, in the long run, give them some money. But on top of that, the number ones were also being bought by hate readers. And the hate readers were basically taking it, critiquing it online, telling their audience, this book is garbage, it's shit, don't go and buy it. And then people would go and buy it anyways, because either the hate viewers of that guy are like, I'm going to buy it just to spite you, or the viewers really wanted to experience it for themselves. They wanted to know every aspect about it and then shit on it themselves in some kind of like a online review and stuff.
Raucus, are you trying to tell us that diversity in comics is literally saving the industry by ripping all these horrible comics up?
No, he actually is helping to destroy and make Marvel crumble and fall piece by piece. But at the same time, I'm saying that there are bursts of sales because of his videos. There are bursts in sales on issue ones and issue twos and such like that because of videos that Diversity in Comics make, or because of videos that maybe Ethan Van Sciver makes and stuff like that. It is an actual thing that does legitimately happen. If you hate on something strong enough, eventually it will surprisingly turn a profit. Once again, this is not something that is long-lasting. And anyone who does use this practice understands it is a one-shot deal, which is one of the reasons why certain books didn't last beyond issue number 10 or issue 15 or whatever the issue they eventually stopped with, because they didn't intend to keep that run going. They just wanted that boost in sales and then get the fuck out and move on to the next project.
Exactly.
Hate sold more than positivity.
If that's what your audience wants, give it to them, right? If your audience is primarily composed of people that hate your product and I just figured out where Marvel's going.
Well, unfortunately, they've been doing it for far too long, so they're kind of sinking themselves a little too far. And then the backlash that the pros have actually given, ooh, that didn't go well, because it got to a point where people just weren't even buying the number ones anymore. Not even collectors were bothering with it. They were just like, dude, even if this turns out to be like a book that is worth $2,000. That wouldn't happen until like I fucking die.
Yeah, like by the time you've made 5 Miss Marvel #1s, people have lost interest, right?
Yeah, that was actually their biggest downfall, is they kept rebooting and creating #1s of the same character.
Yeah, and it's if it didn't work the first time and it worked less the second time, you should probably have figured out the pattern by time number 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Captain Marvel got canceled like, what was it, 5 times and then relaunched. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
it didn't. That should be a sign that this is a bad book, that no one wants it. And yet here, come the summer, we're getting the movie. So
yeah, actually, one of the main reasons why the latest Captain Marvel books have actually been getting pushed a great deal is because the movie is actually reflecting the comic book now, and the comic book is starting to reflect the movie. I haven't actually read this Captain Marvel because it is still supposed to be the same Carol Danvers that everybody's been hating for the last 5 years. But it's the correlation of the merch. Like, why do, like after watching a Marvel movie, kids want to go and buy the comic books of the character and shit. So one of the reasons why Marvel's been pushing the new Captain Marvel comic books is because, it was canceled, and the only time you could see her now was if you were reading like Alpha Flight and she cameos in that, or the Avengers and she cameos in that, or fucking Guardians of the Galaxy and she kind of actually was that in that team for a bit.
one of the things that they need to start doing is like, people need to be reminded that these books still exist. Like, people still make comic books, and I know a lot of people tend to walk away when they look at comics because they're so bad, or it's not what they expect. Like like they'll have these kids and they love Iron Man, and the parents might be like, oh yeah, these are based on comics. Maybe we should go see what the comic books are like. And they go there and it's Riri Williams, who's now Iron Man. Not anymore, mind you. But at the time they would look at that and go, oh, okay, that's all right. That's not what I was expecting. Or they'll like, oh, what about Thor? I love Thor. And it's Jane Foster as Thor. It's like, oh, well, that's not the Thor I saw in the movie.
The worst thing is they did it to so many of their most popular characters all at once, right?
Yeah.
You have Captain Marvel is Carol Danvers. Miss Marvel is Kamala Khan. Fucking the Hulk is Amadeus Cho.
Nope.
Nope. No, not anymore.
Well, he is, but at the same time, the Hulk is legitimately. There's 5 Hulks right now. I'm not even kidding. Bruce Banner's still alive. Don't know how, but Bruce Banner's still alive. Amadeus Cho is still currently the Hulk. He's, I believe, the Immortal Hulk. And then there's also She-Hulk, who is simply called the Hulk, and she's in the Avengers now. Her own individual book has been canceled, but she's still the fucking very manly Hulk character in the new run of the Avengers.
Right. I remember the new design for She-Hulk. To be fair, it does look more like a Hulk, but
not the Hulk we want.
It's not what she's looked like for years and years.
I want my green bombshell.
But I mean, if you came in during these times, like Amadeus Cho, maybe not a huge thing, right? Like people just coming to start reading the Hulk comics, they're not looking for Banner, they're looking for the Hulk, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, Amadeus Cho as the Hulk is actually a fun character. He's kind of like Hulk Jr., because he's actually intelligent. He's in full control of his powers and everything. He was really a fun, awesome, interesting character and shit. They just didn't need to do what they did with the rest of the Hulk storyline. Like Jennifer Walters, her fucking Hulk, her gamma radiation, like started acting all kinds of funny and ended up causing her to go completely berserk. And then she just loses her shit and she is taken over by the monster. And whenever she transforms, she legitimately looks like a fucking just a goddamn man with long hair. Amadeus Cho, what they started doing with him was, again, the gamma radiation started turning on him and he started becoming far more monstrous. And then Bruce Banner, who's supposed to be dead, is still alive. Just pick a story arc.
Well, it's because they made their mistake already. They're correcting at this point, right?
This is not correction.
Well, it's bringing Banner back, at least, is them trying to head back to where they were, right? You know, obviously they're not correcting with She-Hulk and shit like that.
No,
but you know, they've taken the shift apparently to bringing Banner back towards Steve Rogers. I think Thor is on the route to being Thor again. They're trying to fix their mistakes. They
I
at
think
least have some idea of the money they've lost.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, Marvel has been denying all this stuff for quite a long time, but even the head honcho at Disney has said, yeah, things aren't going too good with our Star Wars and Marvel franchises. I mean, when the head honcho is the one saying it, like, how are you going to fucking, you know, try and say, oh, yeah, we're a major success? You can't. It doesn't work that way. Your boss is calling you out.
Yeah, it's fucking pathetic. One of the reasons why the course correction they are trying to do with Hulk, and this is the saddest part. Do you know when the Hulk was probably the most popular he's ever been?
When?
Planet Hulk, World Breaker Hulk.
Oh, okay.
That was a really good storyline.
It was. They were fantastic stories. So why do you think Amadeus Cho is suddenly losing control of the gamma radiation side of himself? Why do you think Jennifer Walters went completely berserk and had to go through some kind of fucking therapy just to get in partial control again and is now essentially what Bruce Hulk was at one point? They're trying to bring the popularity of the Hulk back to when it was most popular, when the Hulk was great. Here's your problem, Marvel. That writer doesn't fucking work for you anymore, and you've just lost everything. You don't know what you're doing anymore, Marvel.
No, it's the exact same thing they did with Wolverine, right?
Pretty much.
They tried to replace him with X-23. And then all of a sudden you have 5 different versions of Logan.
Oh,
because
God.
they realized they needed the original.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of throwing everything at the wall and hoping something's going to stick. It doesn't quite work that way. I think part of the reason why they're doing this, and some people speculated as well, is that they're trying to give up a replacement for when the actors get too old. They're trying to build an audience for these new characters, and Captain Marvel is kind of their start of it. And I don't think it's going to work. But then again, yeah.
There's a simple solution to that, and I will explain after you're done explaining. Go continue.
Oh, I was just going to say that I don't think it's going to work. There is a very real possibility that we're all wrong. Captain Marvel can come out and it'll be a mega success. That's still a possibility. However, I like with Black Panther, I'm not going to believe everything I hear, because I don't know if you guys heard, although everyone says that Black Panther made a shit ton of money, it only made a good bit of money on this side of the globe. Hollywood makes their money in 2 sides. There is the hometown here in America, North America, that kind of stuff, and then there's China.
Yeah, it's domestic and international.
Yeah, see, but China didn't care for Black Panther. They really didn't like it. It was a flop over there. And that's not good. So that means, like, yes, Black Panther will get a sequel. But it won't be called Black Panther when it goes out to China. They'll have an alternate title ready for that. And it'll have more Avengers.
By the way, I just want to point out that sometimes, I'm not saying it happens all the time, but sometimes studios count Canadian movie ticket sales as also a part of their domestic, even though you guys aren't actually America. They do. Some studios will legitimately count Canada and American ticket sales for movies as one and the same. So that will go towards the domestic, and it sort of inflates their numbers a bit. But, you know, there you go.
That's not too surprising. I could see that happening.
Yeah, it's also like there's not much of a difference between the 2 countries, really. You guys are just North America. That's it. You might as well be America, but you're just the north of us. There are obvious differences, and you guys have French Canada, so get rid of that. By the way,
if our population keeps declining like it's going to be, we'll have no choice but to join America.
You eventually become America.
Yeah, we need to get Canadians to start breeding again, have kids. I swear to God, if there's Canadian listening to this right now, listening to what we're saying, if you take nothing else but this, have children.
We already know Shrekel's doing his part.
Oh, he already did his part.
Jimmy, when was the last time you did your part?
9 years ago.
God damn it.
Luckily for me, it didn't work out that way. So,
oh God,
that's why I still have money. Not lots, mind you, but at least I'm still here.
Semaj, it's funny and sad at the same time. I don't even know how to feel right now.
Look, I swear to God, if I my last girlfriend and she actually got pregnant and we had a kid, oh boy, it would have been bad.
Oh, okay.
It would have been bad. When in the last years that we were together, it was not good, not good at all. I'm so glad she was a crazy bitch.
Fair enough. But no, back to what I was saying. There's an actual simple solution to this, and this is something that Marvel and DC has never truly been able to grasp the concept of, and it's because it's a problem that I have seen, especially DC, have so horribly, and like Marvel does the same thing. I'm not even going to hide that fact, but both of them, they do not trust the audience enough to actually kill off some of their biggest names like Batman or Superman. Just stop producing those comic books and expect the audience to still be there and continue to say, what else do you have? Give me more stuff and everything. Because I truly believe that what the actual problem with Marvel and DC is right now is that they just keep building on the same characters that they've already built on. It's time to put these characters to rest. It's time to let Captain Marvel retire. It's time to let Captain America retire, Wolverine retire. Let these characters go the fuck away. One of the things that I highly appreciate about Japan, and it's a fucking proven fact with these people, is that artists and writers are truly the magic behind the characters, magic behind the products. We idolize people like Steve Ditko and Stan Lee. Both have passed. But they were great men. They gave us Spider-Man, and we will forever be in their debt for that. But we don't need more people doing Spider-Man because we already have enough Spider-Man. In Japan, their characters their stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it does eventually end. Even with epics like Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, Fairy Tail, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball GT, whatever the case is, even though there are massive epic stories out there, they eventually have a fucking end. And that's it. That's all you get. That's all the story is. There is no other things to it. The characters might come back in cameos for like a later project or something like that. Or maybe the story does continue on, but with the next generation, like with Naruto. But that's basically what Japan does way better than what we do. And it's a proven fact time and again that the audience is still there waiting for Akira Toriyama's next project. They care more about Akira Toriyama than they actually do his products like Dragon Ball Z. It's Dragon Ball Z that got them to look at Akira Toriyama like the fucking amazing man he is, even though I think he's a hack.
Akira Toriyama has done like multiple titles after Dragon Ball. None of them were ever as successful.
It was mostly just small things here and there, and it was mostly fucking also video game art that he actually did. Let's not beat around the bush and pretend like Akira Toriyama did another big amazing thing.
Yeah, well, he's done not just video games. He's had manga and other such stuff that he's been trying to get to his TV shows, but none of it flies. It's all Dragon Ball.
No, I understand that, but people only know Toriyama's name because of Dragon Ball, because of Dragon Ball Z. And yes, the Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z fans are actually, truth be told, really bad example, because these fucking nut jobs like are obsessed over that franchise. They can't move the fuck on from it. So I should have used somebody else like Takahashi, Rumikyo Takahashi. This is the woman that gave you all fucking Ranma 1/2 and Inuyasha. Okay? She danced around a few other projects before Ranma 1/2, and then Ranma 1/2 came around. Everybody fucking loved it. Doesn't know how to end a goddamn series, so it ran on for goddamn ever. And then Inuyasha came around. Same fucking thing. Same exact thing. Doesn't know how to end a series, so it ran on for fucking ever. But she's a great example of the artist is actually the most important element to that story, and her fan base follows her, not the product itself 100%, because Ranma was just as big as Inuyasha, and Inuyasha was actually bigger than Ranma, even though Ranma probably has a slightly more respectable fan base, I would say.
If you say so.
They're not as crazy as the Inuyasha fans, dude.
I think you've lost Schmeckle.
Yeah, because he doesn't fucking know weeb shit.
Yeah, we've sunk back into the weeb shit, so I think we'll wrap up at this point.
I was just using Japan as an example for what I was saying when it came to this, because Marvel and DC they don't believe that the audience will stick around if they just give us new shit. They don't trust that the audience is hungry for new, interesting characters. Yet we've been saying, give us new, interesting characters for decades. We do want more gay representation. Give us a new gay character. Don't take someone who already exists and suddenly turn him gay. We want more black superheroes. Don't take an already existing mantle and say, well, Barry Allen's black now, because fuck you. That's why.
Wally West, not Barry Allen.
They did the Wally West thing in the comic book, but I was using Barry Allen as an example because it's the name that popped in my head.
But yeah, that was a particularly dumb one. At least it was, like an alternate universe type thing. But
kind of.
If you want a black character, you want a gay character, something like that. Not only are you not gonna impress anybody by just swapping an existing character, it's got to be kind of insulting, right?
No, it's extremely insulting.
I mean, if I were a black gay guy, I wouldn't want you to just go, "Hey, Spider-Man's black and gay now." Like, that wouldn't be. Like, to me, that would be blatant pandering. I would feel like I was being coddled, treated like a child.
I actually know a few hardcore Spider-Man fans who got pissed whenever they actually heard somebody bringing up the concept of, like, make Spider-Man black. Why can't Peter Parker be black? All that stuff. Mind you, these hardcore Spider-Man fans are actually black dudes. And they would lose their shit on the people saying, why can't Peter Parker be black, over and over again? Because they actually said, like, look, we have Miles Morales from the Ultimate Universe. He's probably one of the few good things from the Ultimate Universe that actually managed to survive its destruction. And now we have Miles Morales. I don't agree that he's Spider-Man. He should have his own fucking name because he's such an amazing character, blah, blah, blah. And I agree with all these guys. But, like, I saw one of these guys lose his fucking shit hardcore for, like, days on someone who actually said something like, why can't Peter Parker be black? And this is a casual fan suggesting this, by the way. He lost his shit, and for 3 fucking days, the two of them would just keep going at it on different threads all throughout Facebook, and it was fucking hilarious. And then finally, the end of the fight was the casual fan who suggested Peter Parker be black called him a racist. He kept hinting at the idea that he might have been racist this entire time, but he called him a racist because he doesn't believe that Peter Parker can be black. And then the dude said, I'm black, you fucking idiot, and showed him a picture of himself. And then everybody was just like, well, you just lost that fucking fight. Shut up, Peter Parker's a white dude.
It's as simple as this. Why can't Peter Parker be black? Baracus, can you be black?
No.
Peter Parker's been white longer than you.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Parker can't be black because they're trying to tell a coherent story, and people don't just change from white to black.
Yeah. And then people would jump into the argument, but he's a fictional character, so is T'Challa. What are you trying to say?
Well, never mind, so is T'Challa. He's a fictional character, yeah, but they're trying to have their story make sense.
It's not even just
people don't just go from white to black.
It's not just that. Like, it was extremely insulting in the 1950s when they did that issue of Superman where Lois did a legitimate Black Like Me issue where she got into some kind of machine in the Fortress of Solitude and actually changed herself into a black woman to experience life as a black woman. That comic book is infamous as one of the most hated Superman comic books that has ever existed because it was so fucking insulting. And it was just a one-off.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it's not acceptable when you're doing it without a liberal spin on it, it doesn't become more acceptable just because you say, "Oh, this is a political thing. It's inclusion. It's representation." You can throw as many buzzwords as you want at it. It's still just shoehorning in a black character. Or not even a black character, taking a white character and shoehorning in some blackness.
It's just fucking ridiculous. One of my favorite things is that a lot of people have noticed that there's never actually been like a black character equivalent to like Superman. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, Marvel created a character named the Blue Marvel. This is one of the first times Marvel has ever actually created a brand new character out of thin air. And they did this brilliant story arc where Blue Marvel is actually an old hero from the 60s who, through some kind of an accident involving dark matter, a villain from that accident was created. I think he called himself Antimatter or some shit like that. I can't remember what his fucking thing was. And then there was Blue Marvel. Blue Marvel covered himself from head to toe and was an amazing superhero. He was Superman in the 1960s. He was loved by all. But in his final fight against his arch rival, his helmet was knocked off and he was revealed to be a black man. And the world turned on him because this was supposed to be like the 1950s, 1960s, and they didn't like the idea of a black man being their savior. So the government made him go underground. They basically convinced him to essentially just retire completely and go away. His villain was gone because of some kind of like temporal thing or whatever. And so he went hidden. And then every bit of his existence was wiped from the newspapers, from the media, all that stuff. They wiped him from people's memories as best as they could. The government made it so the Blue Marvel technically didn't even exist. And the man who helped do this was Howard Stark. Tony eventually, at one point, stumbles across this because an incident happens, and it turns out Blue Marvel's villain is starting to come back. And so it's causing all kinds of issues. So eventually, Tony goes on this hunt to try to find the guy who actually fought and beat him in the past. And they come across the man who was once Blue Marvel. This is such an amazing, interesting character because when he's asked to come back into action, he even throws a fit and says, "The world rejected me when they discovered I was a black man." This dude doesn't age very well. Like, so, you know, he's kind of like the Superman equivalent and shit. And he's ridiculously powerful. Truth be told, he could kick Superman's ass. He has the ability of like dark matter or antimatter or some shit like that. I think it's dark matter specifically. And he's incredibly powerful. The Blue Marvel was such an interesting character. This character was so fucking popular, he eventually made his way into the fucking main roster within a couple of years of his introduction into the story. Like, he kind of went away after that, shortly after, but then people really wanted the Blue Marvel back, so they started introducing the Blue Marvel into the main roster more frequently. He started teaming up with the Avengers a lot more often, and then eventually he actually teamed up with Black Panther and a handful of others to create the Ultimates, or something like that.
Yeah, it was the Ultimates with America.
Oh
the
yeah,
black chick that can jump between realities.
Yeah,
America Chavez.
America Chavez. This was before she was outed as an apparent lesbian and alien. This was when she didn't have that much character development. Monica Rambeau, Black Panther, Ms. Marvel. Then she became Captain Marvel. I can't remember everybody that was on the team, but yeah, Blue Marvel was a really cool, really interesting new character that Marvel introduced, and they did a damn good job of explaining where he was, why people didn't remember him, so on and so forth. And he was so cool and interesting, and like, you know, he's a Superman equivalent and shit.
It's not the only time they've done that. There's also Isaiah Bradley.
Oh yeah, that's another good.
The Black Captain America.
Yeah.
A whole storyline where, Steve Rogers got to volunteer for the Super Soldier Project. Isaiah Bradley, not so much, right?
They pretty much just said, "Hey, you're gonna get this shot."
Yeah, it was admittedly not a very big storyline. He didn't get popular like the Blue Marvel. He never, because of how it ended, obviously he couldn't be reused a whole lot.
True, but we eventually got his grandson.
Yeah, exactly. Eli Bradley, the Patriot.
Mm-hmm. By the way, notice anything about these two characters?
They're Jews.
No,
based on their names.
They're nowhere to be found. Blue Marvel was still hanging on by a little bit because of the Ultimates from a few years ago, but then when the Ultimates comic book was actually canceled, the Blue Marvel almost disappeared entirely.
Well, yeah, he was sidelined. He's watching the Watcher's kid.
Pretty much. And then there was all the things that actually came about when the Young Avengers started to fall apart. Patriot's nowhere to be found. I haven't seen him. When Captain America was the shield was being passed off to Sam Wilson, in my head I'm thinking, but where's Patriot? He is the literal young Captain America. Why didn't they give it to him?
I still think if they wanted a Captain America, a black Captain America, it should have been Luke Cage.
Oh, that would have been interesting as fuck. Oh, and they both have the issue with cussing too. That would have been great.
And Luke Cage has been called the Captain America Harlem.
He kind of is, yeah, in a lot of ways.
He would have been the obvious choice.
Missed opportunity.
He was basically Captain America's equal in terms of physical strength.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he wasn't quite as acrobatic as Steve Rogers, but he made up for that by being bulletproof.
Yeah. He definitely has, like, all the pros and cons that Cap has are definitely, like, the pros that Cap has, not exactly pros that Luke Cage has, except for maybe strength. And then all the cons that Cap has, Luke Cage pretty much has that in the bag, you know. Bulletproof. Damn near.
All Falcon had was he was Cap's buddy. that was his fucking, like, that's how he ended up with the shield. He was a sidekick for a while.
Pretty much. There's another thing that I wanted to point out. There are other characters from the Young Avengers that seem to have disappeared. What happened to Scott Lang's daughter, Cassie? Giant Girl is nowhere to be found anymore. What happened to the out of nowhere gay couple? No one had a problem with them being gay when they were supposedly announced as a gay couple. Wiccan and Hulkling. They're nowhere to be found. I think actually Wiccan's supposed to be dead, or maybe it was Hulkling that actually died. But either way, these characters who managed to survive the falling apart of the Young Avengers, they're nowhere to be found anymore. They've basically been completely shelved and forgotten about in pursuit of pushing other more popular, well-named characters and such. But these were still relatively interesting and new-ish characters that the comic book the comic book fans really enjoyed. But do you know who did manage to survive and is constantly being thrown in our fucking face in the most disrespectful way? The woman who took Hawkeye's name.
Yeah, Kate Bishop.
Yeah. No one likes Kate Bishop. No one really liked Kate Bishop when she was actually a member of the Young Avengers, except for the fact that she was kind of the female equivalent to Clint Barton. But even then, she didn't have much of a fan following because Clint is still Clint. You can't create his equal and then expect people to like say, "Oh yeah, no, I like the clone with tits of the original. That version is so much more satisfying somehow."
Isn't she still like really young?
She's supposed to be in her fucking 20s at this point. She's supposed to be like mid-20s, but yeah, they keep trying to pretend like she's still 19.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's...
To
be
fair, they're never really all that consistent with ages, right?
No, that's true.
Well, it's part of the problem is like you bring in new writers and all that, and they don't really know themselves what the ages are. There should be like a Cliff Notes or like a Bible, if you will, about the information of these characters, their ages, how long they've been there, that kind of stuff. The important details that they should know.
Yeah, exactly. It's why with the script and shit I sent you, I sent notes about everything.
That's right.
Next time those notes will be updated and it'll be consistent because that's how a story should be. I mean, you're going to lose some consistency in a medium like comics where you have multiple writers, but the amount that they lose, the amount of mistakes and inconsistencies that they have, it's unacceptable. It's amateur shit. It's not something you should be seeing by a professional by any means, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just telling Lionel about what actually happened with the Young Avengers. See, they disappeared after AVX and have never made a comeback. The only time we see Young Avengers nowadays is the alternate one-off version where it's actually a dystopian future created by Ultron, and the Young Avengers are actually the legitimate children of the Avengers. T'Challa and Aurora Monroe's son, Black Widow and Captain America's son, Ant-Man and Wasp's son, Thor's daughter. And
I think I vaguely remember this group.
Yeah, they actually had a one-off movie from a few years ago that was really, really fucking popular called Young Avengers, and it was a really interesting movie. And they never went anywhere with it. They made a comic book equivalent of the movie, but it never actually got expanded on. But there was rumor that they were going to be expanding on it sometime, some years ago. Otherwise, that's pretty much the last we've heard of the Young Avengers.
I mean, to be fair, they weren't the most interesting group. I mean, even as far as groups of young independent heroes, there were the Runaways that were a lot more interesting. But I mean, even with the group falling apart, there were characters there that could have been used. You had your black character, you had your gay characters, already fleshed out with their own personalities, their own identities. It does seem weird that they abandoned those while they were in the process of trying to include one of everything.
True.
Anyway, we're gonna wrap up. It's getting late here.
Yeah, it's a little past midnight. How many people are even still watching us?
I have no idea. It's not showing the number this time.
Oh, I got for me it says 11 people are watching. One left as soon as I said this.
Yeah, usually it shows how many in the hangout window. It's not doing that. But anyway, we're gonna shut the fuck down. Jussie's a fucking liar. He told a dumb lie and he got caught.
Fucking idiot.
Anything to add before we wrap up?
Nope.
All right, get the
to
fuck.
die in a cleansing fire.
Ah,
There you go. Fuck out of here. We'll see you tomorrow for CNN.